Hello, and welcome to the Atheist Experience. We are currently in our 27th season of this show, and we have yet to be convinced that any gods exist. If you think that you have the argument or the evidence that we've been looking for all these many, many years, then get ready to call in, because the show starts right now. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Forrest Valkai, and I'm joined today by the incomparable and mighty Jmike. How are you doing today?
I am great. I'm having a really good day, actually, so I'm excited.
I'm glad to hear that, man. That's excellent. I'm super stoked to get started because we have a tremendous amount of great callers on the line. Usually the last couple of things that I've been doing, we've had, theists kind of reluctant to call, but right now we actually have packed lines with really cool things I want to talk about. So just so everybody else knows, today is March the 12th, 2023. The Atheist Experience is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And quickly, before we get in, I want to give everybody the results of last week's poll, the Share Your Experience question, as it is called. As you know, each week we ask the audience to respond to a couple of questions in the comments, and we pick our favorite responses and put them here on the screen today. Last week we asked, what do you think that the 11th commandment should be? Wrong answers only. And here are three top favorite answers. Number 3 comes from Josh Sheridan, who said, how about try studying science before you try to debunk it? Number 2 was from Cindy C. 11th commandment, thou shalt not remove thine cap from thine lap. And finally, number 1 answer this week is from Ninja Blue Fire. 11th commandment, thou shalt not joke about bald people. Love that.
The second one is the first commandment that my cat gives to me. So I completely get that 100%. If you've seen me freeze up on a live ever, and I'm just like stuck, sometimes I lean, do weird things. If you ever see me like frozen, there's a cat on my lap and I have to obey. So just heads up.
You just have to stay still and let it do its thing.
Yeah.
The world will wait for the cat. This week, the question is, who is the worst person to run into in heaven? So be sure to answer the question down in the comment section right below the video here. Next week, we'll pick our top 3 favorite answers and read them on screen, just as I did so awkwardly today. So the question was, who do you not want to run into heaven? Who's the worst person to run into heaven? In heaven? And with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into calls because we have seriously so many people already on the line ready to go. And we're going to start right here with Frank here from the US of A. No pronouns given. Says he has existential evidence that God is real. Frank, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. It's amazing. Actually, I'm so honored to be here in your presence, you atheist. I love you guys.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So really quickly, before we get into the actual evidence that you have and what you want to say, I just wanted to ask, and I don't want to make this a whole sidetrack, so don't let me red herring you off to the side here. What do you mean by existential evidence?
It's evidence that we understand from our own existence.
From our own existence. Okay, so are you talking about something that everybody can and has experienced, or are you talking about something that's out there for us to go looking for? What exactly? I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from is all.
Right. Yeah, the evidence that we have from our own experience.
Okay, cool. Well, lay it on us. What do you got?
Okay, well, I'm going to hit you with this first, right off the bat, is that if you don't believe in God, then your life is meaningless.
Well, that's hurtful. Okay, I think my life is pretty fantastic.
I know
I'm very happy with everything that I've got. So,
how about this?
Weird way to start the conversation, bro.
Yeah, and how about this? If you believe in God, your life is meaningless. What do we do now?
It doesn't really solve anything. It's just a weird insult.
God, my life is meaningless?
Yeah, how did that make you feel when I said that?
I mean, honestly, I'm pretty hard-skinned, so it didn't really bother me all that much.
Yeah, didn't really bother us.
In terms of wanting to have a conversation with somebody, how do you feel that is as an opener?
Right.
So we'll set that aside for the time being. I'd be happy to talk about how wonderful and meaningful my life is, but
obviously, no. Slow it down there a second, homeboy. Listen, when you look at life through the lens of science, you're missing the whole point of life. Period.
Okay, strongly disagree, but you still haven't gotten to your evidence, so I'm more interested in that. We can come back to this if you'd like, but
I also don't think I'm doing like making like novel predictions or like calculations when I like go see my family.
That's where we're getting
meaningful time. So
all right, wait, slow it down. I know you guys are excited, but listen,
Frank, I'm gonna help you out. Do not tell the host to slow it down. If you want to have a conversation that you get your point out, we'll talk like humans. If you're gonna tell us to slow it down, we have 12 other callers. We have no problem hanging up on you. So just realize who has the button.
Fine.
Yeah, so get to it. I mean, if it's really important to you, then you wouldn't do all that.
You guys, can we talk about objective morality or no?
Is that your evidence?
That's one of my first pieces of evidence. Yes.
So your first piece of, or you said one of the first pieces of evidence is an objective system of morality. That's what you're saying?
That's right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about what your morality is. I want you to prove to me that this objective system in the first place exists.
Well, I think anyone with a sense of anything understands this.
That's not an argument.
Okay. What is it?
No,
that you're saying exists? What is it?
Objective morality. You should not.
Right. No, I
unless that killing is justified.
I get I understand this objective morality. How do you know this is a system that actually exists in the world? When you say objective, something outside of our individual experiences that we can all agree on and all look to.
No.
How do you know such a thing is real?
It's not outside. Wait, slow down. Okay, I did not say that this was something outside of our experience. This is something we experience.
Well, that's what objective means.
We know.
I don't know it.
Yeah, that's what objective means. Is something that isn't subjective. It doesn't rely on or depend on our individual experience to exist. It's something outside of us that we can all agree is real, right?
That's right.
Yep.
That's
okay,
right.
So the thing that I said that you corrected me for is what I'm talking about. How do you know that that's a thing?
Yes, like what you're saying is we agree that moral facts. Hold on, real quick. The thing we agree about is that moral facts are stance independent or independent of minds. We want you, we agree with that, but there's no sense of going about this thing if you can't show us the referent and show that the referent is a real thing, right? So that's your task.
Yeah, but you can sense that thing, right? Like if I kill someone without any good reason at all, what have I done? Have I committed a crime? Have I committed a sin? I mean, you have a sense for it.
But look,
so is that your objective evidence? Is that we have a sense for it?
Because that's stance dependent, not stance independent. Yeah, that's consistent with moral anti-realism, right? If I can have a sense of what's wrong, it doesn't do the extra work that I ought not do this thing independent of my own senses, right? That's
also if you say that we have a sense of right and wrong and we feel bad if we kill somebody and therefore that's proof of this objective morality. Okay, what about this person who's actually crazy and he's a sociopath that doesn't care to murder anybody? Does that evidence against your point because this person doesn't have that sense of this thing? What if, we actually have an evolved sense of these things? Is there strong evidence that morality and compassion and empathy and things are actually evolved characteristics? How does that factor into what you're talking about? I don't know. This is a really weird way to start, man.
There's empirical evidence against.
That's not. Here's the thing, buddy. That's not the rule. That's the exception to the rule. We all. It doesn't matter what our culture, our race, or our religions are. We all have a sense of this higher value. This thing that.
Except for the people who don't.
Yeah, and Frank, there's a big problem here. So there's actually something I was reading by someone named Lance Bush, I was watching by somebody named Lance Bush, who he's a psychologist, but he also works, or he has, I think, a psychology major, but he also does a lot of stuff in meta ethics and philosophy. And so he's done these kind of surveys and researched these surveys where they ask people, is murder wrong? and or really any questions like, is this right or this is wrong? And what they find immensely is that you get this entanglement of like what wrong means, right? Somebody might mean, I think it's wrong, right? Stance dependent or mind dependent. But there's also this other question of or this view of wrongness that it's objectively wrong, right? Stance independently wrong. And so when you make this claim that we all have this sense, well, no, because I'm a moral anti-realist. I think the sense that I have is that it's my senses that come from my values, that come from my attitudes. They're not like untethered values that are like compelling me to do things, but that might be your notion of wrong. So when you say we have a sense of this, that's an equivocation, because I have a sense of a completely different notion of wrong than you do. You have this notion of wrong that's untethered from minds or reasons that we should do something, untethered from our values. I find that to be incoherent gibberish, right? So if you have a position, you say we all sense this, you're equivocating, because I'm not using wrong in the same way that you do.
I also want to point out that I have a slightly different, philosophical approach to the whole concept of morality, and I still arrive at a lot of the same moral conclusions that Jmike does. So he and I are coming from completely different backgrounds in terms of how we approach the philosophical concept of what morals are and what morality is. And both of them go against what you're saying. And also, we're both moral people. So I'm not sure how any of that factors into what you're getting at here, dude.
Right. Like, that's fine. You have a sense of what morality is. I have a sense of what morality is. And I love you guys, but that doesn't change what is right and what is wrong. It is something outside of ourselves.
Frank, you just keep doing this thing, and that's bothering me, that like you just glance over all of the work that's in front of you to do. Like, seriously, if I was a teacher and the task was a project on objective morality, you would have handed me a blank piece of paper, and I would have said, sit back down and do the work. Right? You just keep doing this appeal to emotion thing where it's like, yeah, but we feel it.
No,
I have this emotional attachment to it. I don't care about that. People have emotional attachments to all sorts of things, and we find out that they're wrong.
Not to mention the fact that like people with like frontal lobe damage are gonna like not do moral things, right? They're gonna have a problem being moral because they've destroyed the part of the brain that handles that kind of rational morality and like ethical thinking and whatnot. So like, what does that factor in? Does that mean that like we're all born with this sense of it unless we aren't, and unless it's lost, and like there's so many things here that really boil down to like physical processes. And you seem to be attributing like these supernatural qualities to very obviously physical processes, and I don't understand why.
No, I disagree with you, because I think you are boiling these things down to all physical processes. We're not seeing the spirit behind all physical processes.
And now we loop back to the thing that you have to demonstrate so that we can actually have a notion of what the referent is, right? You can say that comes from some source, but you've yet to even supply an argument or evidence for the thing that you think is the standard.
I got all like mad about it. Like, I was trying to tell you about, first of all,
because you can't just say things. We have to like understand what you're talking about, man. We're in front of like thousands of people here. If you just say whatever, then we're not going to get anywhere. So you said that you have existential evidence that God is real. And we asked, what's your first evidence? And your first evidence is that there is objective morality. And we're saying, what is that?
Objective basis, this objective morality that we all have a sense for and try to achieve. It's the idea of...
You asked me how I explain that? Did you just ask me how I explain the fact that we all have some...
There's atheist worldview.
It's not an atheist worldview. It's just... there's evidence of that across the animal kingdom, especially in mammals. And the more closely you get to us in terms of like relationships,
like even
the more we see the same kind of things.
Of fairness, right? If you give a monkey 2 bananas and it has a brother, it might hand its other banana to its brother. But that's not
a bit more complex than that, but sure. Like that's the whole thing is we see, ethical and moral behavior, what you could call moral behavior across the animal kingdom more and more and more so as we get closer in, a phylogenetic relationship to us. And so there's strong evidence for that and a couple of other reasons as well, why these behaviors are evolved traits for living as social animals. It's better to live in a society as ethical, moral, empathetical kind of people and not be a dick, which has some negative advantages in terms of reproduction and survival. So like yeah, there's strong evidence of moral behavior being an evolved trait. And even if we couldn't explain that, even if we didn't have evidence for that, the fact that we behave nicely isn't evidence for magic. You need to demonstrate that this objective moral system exists and where it comes from and who decided on it.
If you're a Christian,
Frank,
you
real quick.
understand that magic is forbidden.
Frank, real quick, let me get this. Let me get this out. This is extremely important. One, we're helping you. I don't think you see it because your argument is a non sequitur, right? The fact that even if we establish there are stance independent moral facts, it doesn't logically follow, therefore God exists. That just doesn't follow. You know what else follows? Therefore moral naturalism is true. Therefore Cornell realism is true. Therefore Jackson realism is true. There's all sorts of views that are naturalized on morality or meta ethics that are atheistic views. They don't have gods, right? They're my co-host on a show that I like to do. When we get around to talking about these types of topics, he's a moral naturalist. So he would just completely disagree with the entailment of what you think objective morality entails, because he actually goes, I think there's objective morality, doesn't entail a God. So we're helping you out, because if you in fact just show us that there's this referent, maybe there's this discussion about the objective facts. I have a secondary issue with that it's not going to end up being objective. It's going to end up being subjective, because it's dependent on God's stances, which is not stance independent, stance dependent, which is subjective. So we're helping you. If in fact you were to present such an argument that, objective morality exists, therefore God exists, you are in the William Lane Craig school of not knowing what you're talking about.
That's fine. Go ahead, throw me into a box of like whatever.
I did. I just literally threw you into a box. I did. It's what I just did. I'm saying, look, you're in the box with people. It's called the non sequitur box. It's a box where you make this entailment that doesn't follow from your premises, right? You don't objective morality. You don't go conclusion, therefore God exists. That's a non sequitur. It doesn't follow. Do you agree with me?
The Bible.
Do you agree with me?
I don't agree with you at all.
Okay, so what's the error in my reasoning for saying that there could be objective moral facts, but nonetheless God doesn't exist? What's the error in my reasoning? What fallacy did I commit?
Because you don't believe in a higher power. You believe that the morality.
It's not about me. Stop. If you say me, you've already messed up. I'm asking. If you say me, I have nothing to do with this. The logical entailment from objective moral facts doesn't therefore follow. It's not like if objective moral facts, then God. Right? That's the claim you're making. You're making a conditional claim.
That's right.
And that conditional claim is false. Why? Because if objective moral facts exist, it's consistent with moral naturalism. It's consistent with Cornell realism. It's consistent with somebody who holds.
We don't get morality from naturalism.
I swear to the God that you believe in, if you don't let me talk. Hopefully I don't get fined for that. No.
Oh, man.
It does not logically follow, because there are people that hold to objective morality. I understand that you have this desire to monopolize meta ethics. This is sophistry. Nobody agrees with this in the philosophical literature. And no, I don't even think if I went out and asked random people, right, that were atheists, and I said, hey, or theist, if objective, I'm sure a lot of theists will want to tie it to God. But they're atheists probably in the live chat that go, hey, I'm an anti-realist. But if objective moral facts exist, that's what I would believe in. It doesn't mean that therefore, I have this entailment. What am I going to do? I have to believe in God now. It makes no sense. It's a bad argument. It's very bad.
I'm hoping that we can come to an agreement on this, or at least come to a point where we can move on to one more thought that this dude has, because man, we've got a million other callers, and I don't want to just be stuck on this one. Frank, Jmike is so much more equipped to talk about philosophy than either one of us is. I'm hoping that you have an argument for what he just said.
I don't think that morality comes from us. Morality comes from something greater than us, and that's really what I'm trying to get across. But also, I want to remind you guys about Matthew 5:22.
Why would I care what Matthew 5:22 says? Before you get into it, why would I care?
Repeating the claim is not doing anything.
Were you muted for a second, or was he muted for a second? What just happened there?
Whoever says you fool will be liable to the fire of hell.
Oh my lord.
Okay. So,
So
when you go to argue like that, but remember Matthew 5:22.
Jmike, I think you just muted yourself for a second, and then you muted him because he was talking, and now you came back.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and then Frank, you came back in the middle of quoting a Bible verse, which neither of us are going to take any stock in. Like, that's such a weird interaction that just happened.
It is very strange.
Really,
I take partial blame on that. So apologies.
It's so strange. Really quick, Frank, could you just answer my question? Why would we care what the Bible says at all? Why would you call two people who don't believe the Bible is real and say the Bible says this? Why would that work?
Well, okay, that's a fair question. Do you believe in any books that were written about history or testimony?
Well, of course I believe in history books if they have, like, evidence.
Oh, you believe
if there's actual history.
Okay.
So like, if there's a history book that's backed by actual historical evidence, I'm into that. The Bible doesn't have that going on for it, so why would I care what it says?
And the facts that scholars do agree on are very, very limited. They're like, you can count them on one hand, basically.
Yeah, like this one part of the Bible was kind of half true. Neato. That doesn't do anything for the rest of it.
And Frank, just so I can, because this part was important, and I don't want to sidetrack everything, but we don't really care about what some book says a thing. The same way if I hand you a biology book and like, oh, chapter 13, evolution. I mean, hopefully me and Forrest could like show you what hopefully we could show what like I know. I'm just I'm not trying.
You're strawmanning.
Frank. No, I'm not strawmanning you. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that's your position. I'm saying if we had this scenario where, say, you didn't believe in it or something, say like, I don't know, you didn't know anything about like astrophysics or something, and we talk about how elements are formed in stars. Well, we could have some type of evidence that supports the claim in the book, not just the book. So that whole thing is kind of nonsense to me. It's not like we just read a book and then we're like, oh, we accept it. There's actual corroboration to why we would, independent of the text. What I wanted to say to you when we were muted was that you just repeated the claim to me. All you did was just repeat the thing that, oh, we have to have this higher power. No, right? That didn't actually engage with my criticism of your argument, right? I pointed an error in your reasoning, which is that it's a non sequitur. You don't go from, it's very simple. If then, right? If then statement. If objective morality exists, then God exists. Now, I asked you, what was the error in my reasoning? I pointed out that you had a non sequitur. So now show me how it logically follows that if objective morality exists, God has to exist.
It depends how you look at God. If you look at God as something like, the Father in the sky or some kind of floating man, right, who's like watching us, yeah, okay, that's fine. You get to have that argument. But
I'm just saying anything with intentional states. I'm just talking about anything that's an agent. It's not a man in a sky. It's not what I think a God would be anyway. I'm talking about something with intentional states, desires, beliefs, hopes, knowledge, right? Something that's constitutive of agency.
You think it does not come from us?
Forrest, I'm about tapped out. I'm about tapped out on this.
I'm just going to ask one more thing, because it's been 20 minutes, dude. Just like, if we said we have no idea where any of it comes from, and we have no idea where the planet comes from, and we have no idea where anything comes, all we know is that we woke up today and here we are. That wouldn't be any kind of evidence for God at all. Saying we don't know where morals,
I
life.
Agree with you there.
Plus, you ruled out Carl.
Okay, great. Then why are you asking that over and over? What's the point?
Plus, you ruled out Carl. If objective morality exists, then Carl exists. You just didn't see this.
It's just you guys can't see the greater thing beyond us. Like
it's a lovely argument.
It's a
really good argument. Yeah, I'm convinced.
Yeah, like there are things that are metaphysical. All right,
Frank. Before we go,
a great example. Love is a great example. It's fine if you guys want to look at it like through this lens of science and act like this is the whole purpose, and the molecules bashed into each other for so long that this has created us. That's fine, but
Frank, I'm gonna stop having to mute you.
This is getting.
I have, you don't engage with actually what's said. What was said, we didn't say anything about the science thing there. I just simply asked you, what was the error in my reasoning for calling you out on a non sequitur? You didn't give me that. If this is your grade A, I don't know. I'd get on S tier or something because this is insane to me.
Yeah, it's really frustrating, dude, because like we're not talking about the same thing, and you keep bringing up this same like there's something beyond us, and then we're like, okay, what is that? And you're like, you can't explain what it is, and we're like, we don't know what it is, and you're like, well, just because you can't explain it doesn't mean it isn't real, and we're like, but what is it? Like, just man, it's been 22 minutes, and we've got a million other calls on the line, so I think we're gonna let it go. But thanks so much for calling in, Frank. We appreciate your time. And feel free to call back if you want to try again sometime. Maybe we'll find some common ground.
I mean, it just seems so simple to me. If you make a type of claim, and we're trying to be like as analytical as we can on it, you say if God exists, or if objective morality exists, then God exists, or whatever.
Right.
Well, objective morality exists, therefore God exists. Okay, great. Like, I'm glad you went to the School of William Lane Craig apologetics. It's lovely. That just doesn't follow. It's a non sequitur because moral naturalism could account for objective morality. Or Carl, was it Carl the Goblin in your
Roland, yeah.
Roland, I'm sorry, yeah. I said Carl. I'm so sorry.
How dare you?
How dare? Yeah, I'm probably gonna be smited by Roland now. So if I just fry it with all the equipment behind me, Roland has spoke.
It's so frustrating because like I tried to just really hang back because like you're way better equipped to talk about philosophical things than I ever will be. Like that's your wheelhouse. You know what I'm talking. You know this stuff way better than me. So like I wanted to really let you explore it and like dig into it, and you did exactly what I thought you would. You friggin' brought up like here's all these different premises and ideas and thoughts, and then it just completely yeah. But there's morals, and you can't say why.
And we sense this in the higher power.
And that's proof of a higher power, but it isn't proof of a higher power. Well, I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that it is. Like, God, it's so frustrating.
Well,
and I want to get on because we've got, sorry?
Well, when you get into this, when we get into biology and all this stuff, you will see me do the same maneuver and being like, this is my boy right here. Have a conversation.
This guy watches enough of this show. This guy watches enough of this show to know what kind of things to say to probably get in the call screen to entice us. He must be a super fan. Well, I've got a different one then. The next one in line is Chris, pronouns he, him, from South Carolina, says that sex and gender are the same thing as far as he knows. We should be able to blaze right through this one just because we're going to clarify some basic definitions. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I just called a show because me and my family got in a little argument coming home from the mall and Hot Topic, and a couple of girls just getting pins and stuff, and I'm just looking at discuss. We got in an argument. My brother tried to talk to me about X and Y chromosomes, and I'm just all confused. He told me to call on the show. He got mad, so here I am.
Right. Well, just so you know, this is an atheist call-in show. I am a biologist, so I can talk about that stuff. But like we're gonna keep it pretty brief because that's not generally the scope of what we're doing. So like, did you have a particular question besides what it says here on the calls? Because I can explain the difference between sex and gender in 2 seconds. But like, if you wanted to get into anything more interesting, I'm happy to.
Well, I definitely want to get more into it. I'm just called the show. He gave me a number. He told me to call this.
Fair enough. Well, just so you know, you've like this show is mainly to discuss, atheism and secular humanism and whatnot. It's known for being somewhat combative. So it's very possible that this guy set you up to try to get you to call in and be embarrassed in front of people. Be aware of that. I don't think you're being malicious by calling in, so I'm not going to be an asshole to you, but just maybe be leery around that dude from now on if he's going to give you this number. Also, it's just the simple explanation. Sorry?
Oh, I will go after you too. So if this is a heated discussion, we can get heated.
Perfect. So just so you know, the basic definitions here is that sex is a biological construct and gender is a social construct. So the difference being, we talk about a sexually reproducing species. Generally speaking, you would have 2 sexes. Not always the case, but whatever. And so we tend to term those male or female. Again, not always the case, but whatever. And this is where you get into all these lines about like chromosomes and hormones and genitalia and this and that and the other. Sex is actually determined by a variety of different factors. More often than not, when we're talking about sex and biology, however, we're talking about gamete size. So if you have lots and lots and lots of little tiny gametes, we call those sperm and we call you a male. And if you have very few large gametes, we call those eggs and we call you a female. Again, there's 1,000,001 exceptions to every rule in biology. There is nothing in biology that's just cut and dry. But that's the long and short of what we talk about when we talk about sex. Gender, on the other hand, is a completely social construct. Gender is a social expression of the expectations of one's perceived biological sex. So gender is something that changes from culture to culture, from generation to generation, from person to person, sometimes from day to day. There are plenty of cultures with more than 2 genders. There are plenty of cultures that have completely different gender norms and gender expectations than we do. There are, subcultures within cultures that have different concepts of gender. The main thing to remember about gender is that you cannot boil gender down, nor can you predict gender from biological sex. It's just a completely different thing that's totally just, it's a made up cultural thing. And so this is one of the reasons why the debate around, the people's rights when we talk about LGBTQ plus people, especially trans and non-binary folk, this is why this becomes so tricky, because a lot of the time we use these terms interchangeably. And when we're just speaking commonly, kind of like how we use the word theory to mean random guess commonly, that's fine. But in science, it means something different. And so we it's really important that we have to be careful, because we don't want to trample over the fact that people have different, gender identities and different expectations of their reality and all these different things. That's the long and short of it, man. If you like, I can give you a much more detailed and elaborate and academic analysis, but I don't think anybody needs it right now.
I think I might have probably not the right place to call in to talk about it. You got any forums or anything I can look up?
Forums?
Well, I suggest the archive So we're actually doing a thing now where there's a 24-hour live stream of the Atheist Experience, as well as we have a big, giant 20-year archive. So you can scroll through those, or maybe have some tags plus Atheist Experience or Talk Heathen or nonprofits and stuff like that. And that could help steer you in terms of kind of this domain. But there's a lot of stuff outside this as well. I just couldn't think of something off the top of my head at the moment.
Gotcha.
We do have, don't we have the oh gosh, what is it? I should know this because I've been hosting the show for some time. We have the thing where fans can write in and like talk to each other and like try out arguments and like discuss things.
Oh, the fan,
like
Facebook fan group, private fan group.
That's the one. The ACA Facebook fan group is a thing. If you wanted to talk to people who are like fans of this show, and you could discuss things there if you so chose.
All right. I'll just do my research. I'm going to probably get a hold of my brother for setting me up.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks so much for calling in, dude. You seem awfully kind. I hope we can talk about something else someday.
Yeah, sure. I'll bring in some Christian apologetics. How about that?
I'd love that.
Hey, that'll be awesome. All right, Chris. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Don't get me too happy.
Take care. Bye-bye. So a couple of things really quick. I just realized we moved on to the next call and I didn't read the announcements because I'm really bad at my job. I've got to really quick before we move on. Every single time we talk about sex and gender, there's inevitably people who get upset and think that we're mixing in our liberal beliefs with our science education. So just really quick, just gonna take one quick minute because this is where I thought this call was gonna go. So here's an undergraduate genetics textbook. This is the one that I read on the show that one time when I had a hard time pulling it up. Gender is not the same as sex. Biological sex refers to the anatomical and physiological phenotype of an individual. Gender is a category assigned by the individual or others based on behavior and cultural practices. One's gender need not coincide with one's biological sex. That's from chapter 4.1. Sex is determined by a number of different mechanisms, not a single one of which has only two options. Then we've got, no, that's the wrong book. Hold on, wait. I just grabbed a random one. Here's another one. This is a undergraduate anthropology textbook talking about bioanthropology. Many anthropologists did significant research throughout the 20th century that demonstrated why human cultural practice can be reduced down to blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. They also argue that culturally shaped gender roles considered appropriate for males and females in a given society could not be reduced to or predicted by biological sex of an individual, whether determined by anatomy, physiology, or chromosomes, or anything else. Today, anthropologists, among with others, call into question the assumption that human beings come in two and only two biological sexes, and that gender roles are built upon those two sexes, and that goes on for a very long time. We can also pull up, this is from the Yale School of Medicine. I'll actually put this link here into the chat so everybody can see it very easily and can read this. It's a great resource. What do we mean by sex and gender? Aren't these terms interchangeable? No, they're not. And this goes on to explain the term sex means this. The term gender should be used to refer to a person's self-representation as male or female and how that person responded to social institutions on the basis of individual gender representation. Here's another link I'll throw out here in the chat for anybody who wants it. This is the World Health Organization's website on gender and health, which is a fantastic read. Gender refers to the characteristics of men, women, boys, men, women, men, girls, and boys that are socially constructed,
childhood
including norms and behaviors and roles and associated with men, women, girls, and boys, and the relationships to one another as a social construct. Gender varies from society to society. This is well-established stuff. This is not, the leftist agenda. This is settled science. It's not an opinion. And I absolutely despise it whenever people who are on this server, who are their whole job is to be skeptics and to be, pro-science and whatnot. And they're like, yeah, but this science sounds somewhat politically charged, so therefore it's not science. Like, no, come on, dude. Anyway, just wanted to get all those into the clip while I could.
I run into that a lot when I kind of surf the live kind of rooms where you can have debates and stuff. I see that a lot myself.
Yeah, I expected to have to pull out all the stops with that call. And so I was like, you know what? If we're going to be here, let's just be here for a second and make sure everybody knows this is not just the agenda of the left. It's actually just some stuff that you should know about reality. If you like what we do and would like to support what we do, here are some ways you can support the Atheist Experience and the ACA. You can become a member of this channel for as little as 99 cents a month. Click the join button below the video. This will give you access to special chat emojis. Throw those special chat emojis in the chat so people can see them. You can also send a super chat with a question or comment, which will be read live on air during the show, which is another thing that I was supposed to do a minute ago, so I'll do it now. We have this super chat from Mark M for $5, asks why we would platform transphobic trolls like John from Canada. He keeps calling in and seems only interested in wasting as much time as he can. I don't know who this person is, but I can tell you that I sometimes give a platform to trolls so that I can use this as an example of what bad arguments look like, and other people can still learn from them, even if I know they won't. That's just me. Pibblepunk sent $10 to say, Evo Devo, the premise sounds like a sci-fi nonsense at first glance. This is evolution and developmental biology. I was shocked to find out that it's real. Would Forrest meant this explaining it a bit and how it works? I would, but it would take way longer than it would take for a super chat. So I'm sorry.
So
I'm gonna have to move on.
Big analysis.
Yeah. Jeff G sent $10 to ask, do you all see any benefit in the experiment of viewing reality without any labels on literally anything, seeing it as one cohesive experience or thing? Curious to get the host views. That sounds real cool. I'm into that. I don't see as just a thought experiment as a thing to do, just to get raw data from the universe. Neato. I don't really have a super strong opinion on it. It sounds interesting. Sounds like fun.
I mean, there could be. If I'm understanding the way that the question's phrased, then I think I agree with you. I'm not really sure though if I'm interpreting it right, because I think that's just what our brains do, is we kind of categorize and label things. It'd be very difficult. I mean, and I'm also someone that's all like philosophy is just like putting pick things in boxes as much as that they can, and then you get like 20 people that just don't agree with that. So that might be the solution. I don't know, but.
Right. Oh gosh, we've got this is just now. Dylan $10 says, Forrest, you mentioned it's not always the case that creatures have just two sexes. What would some examples of this be? So, like when we talk about sex, where there's monoecious species where you have the same, you still have two gametes, but they're happening within the same individual. So, like a lot of monoecious trees, for example, the slugs and whatnot. Versus dioecious things. There are some animals that have, when we talk about gametes, different sizes of gametes, that means it's what we call anisogamitic. You can have an isogamitic species with only one size of gamete, and yet they still have distinct, what you would call breeding pairs, distinct sexes. There are species with more than two of the same size of gametes, and shit just gets real weird real fast. Yeah, it's just, man, nature's real fuzzy and real strange, and that's what makes it awesome. That's why I love biology. Mel Tree Fitty sent $5 to ask, what is your favorite worst argument for God? Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Hi, Mel. Sorry, I know Mel.
Yeah, you know Mel?
Mel's awesome.
That's awesome. What's your favorite worst argument, since you know this person?
Favorite worst argument?
That's what it says.
I don't know. I had somebody try to, I think it's the same person that was going around for a while, and I don't know if they're a troll or not, but they were trying to prove God with like colors and shapes. And I was like, well, I never really could put the shapes into the holes when I was a kid very well. So this argument's just not going to work for me at all. So I struggle with the shapes and all that. I don't know that there's a lot of stuff in, so I find this view called the doctrine of divine simplicity that a lot, it's like constitutive of what's called classical theism, as to be opposed with non-classical theism. I find like really any arguments for that view to be some of the worst, because they take this like idea that God's omniscience is his omnipotence, which just is his omnibenevolence, which is his necessary nature, and you get all of these weird problems that God is all identical to all of what you would say his parts were, even though he doesn't have parts. And he's just this one simple thing. To me, it seems like any argument for that, I don't even know if what you're expressing to me is like a proposition, because if we can only talk about God analogously, right, we're never really tracking it. It just sounds like nonsense to me, or it just sounds like it makes nonsense of predication in terms of like having a coherent understanding. If I have a proposition I think is true, presumably I'm not just saying it analogously. I actually know what the terms mean, and they fit a very specific criteria. I find that whole view or arguments for that just to like hide behind the bushes, kind of, in a way. So that would be not really an argument, but more so a position that I think should go.
I think my favorite one is, like, it's hard because when you say favorite, I'm assuming you mean the one that I have the most fun with, and not the one that is the most persistently obnoxious. Like, because like I'd have to say is the people who talk about like how like God doesn't have to prove anything to us. That it's fine. He can just decide to reveal himself or whatever like that. Because then it just throws the ball back in this God's court. That like, if you're not going to put in the work to show us that you exist, and then also punish us if we don't believe you exist, 110%, you're the jerk here. Like that doesn't make me the asshole, right? Like, yeah, that one always freaking kills me. Love that. Really quickly before we move on. Oh God, no, we've got more people now. Quit. Oh,
and I wanted to say I actually have a new worst argument was if objective morality exists, then God exists. So I actually take back what I said. The first call or second call we got was probably the worst argument, but that's like something William Lane Craig uses as well. So
right. $5 from Jason Jones. Here, have 5 doll hairs for your fancy schmancy book learning. You indefatigable erudite of unbounded happiness and hope. Well, thank you so much. And then Josh F also sent $5. Is it wrong to worship an immoral but real being in order for the evil being to not torture you forever? I would say that you would have a hard time saying that was wrong of you to do, because you are being coerced and pressed into making a decision. So like if I put a gun to your head and say, go rob somebody, it's hard to hold you accountable for doing the wrong thing. You know what I mean? This God has a gun to your head saying, I'm going to punish you for all eternity if you don't do XYZ thing. If you comply out of fear, I wouldn't call you morally complicit in that. I don't know. Do you agree?
Morally complicit if what?
If this God is threatening you and coercing you into making a decision,
oh yeah,
can you be held accountable for that decision?
Yeah, that's Well, I for one take an alternative route on them. I'm just kidding.
So we moved. I'm trying to go through because we have 17 other calls. We also have a channel that houses all the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form. You can visit tiny.cc/AEN podcast. There you can listen to all the latest shows from the Atheist Experience, Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted, the Nonprofits, Secular Sexuality, and all the other ones all in one channel. You can also support us on Patreon at tiny.cc/PatreonAXP. And now with that, we can move on to the next call because I'm trying, like, wow, we have so many people and I'm trying to go as fast as I can. We've got Cliff calling in from Canada, says that if God is real, we should worship it. Cliff, thank you so much for waiting for 45 minutes. How are you today?
Hey, I am doing great. And I just want to say, first off, just a quick little shout out to some beautiful people that you have posting on your videos. I was actually looking for some other real quick. I want to be quick here, but okay, they're atheists. I'm a theist, but and yourself too. Just how polite and actually patient you guys are in how you speak and how you put up. Hey, I can see you put up with a lot to be expected. But I just wanted, just say that. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So it for sure. Okay. So okay. I want to kind of address your poll question, and I guess kind of come from the angle that if there is any kind of evidence that you would actually accept and say, okay, I would like to think I probably have it, to be honest with you. Okay. If, and again, like if, that's a huge if, like if there was something where you would say, okay, that is, okay. And that is, okay, first, okay, for me as a Christian, as a believer, to say, okay, you know what? Okay, I have to say this. We have to start with a claim at some point, right? Okay, so I have to start with a claim that you must, say, okay, and okay, continue, right? So in other words, if I say, okay, I could, as soon as I open my mouth, you could say, okay, can you prove that scientifically? Okay, can you prove that? Can you prove that? So I'm saying,
right. The
claim I would ask you to first accept is, okay, we're on two different launch pads, okay? The believer, and we know this, okay, the believer and the atheist, right? Okay,
well, let's skip it. Let's skip over it. Let's say that you all of a sudden today, Jmike and I just decided that we believe 100% in the God that you're talking about. So, like, we'll skip over all of it and be all right. Now we're Christians. Cool. Why should we worship this God if we accept that it's real?
Okay. So I actually say, okay, that the worship part second. Okay, or the second. Oh, and I'm only saying that because, okay, so for the atheist, okay, you say, okay, can you prove to me that your God is real, or God is real, God exists? So I would say, okay, the claim first to start with is, okay, are you, okay, our position is that, okay, we were created, but not only that, we were created a certain kind of way, okay? So I believe that we were created, and okay, that's the claim first, okay? And again, you can interrupt that, it's, say, but okay, hold on, okay, for now.
Well,
I'm trying to skip past it.
Yeah, Forrest is trying to grant this.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Forrest is trying we're trying to grant this so that we can just kind of get to the meat and potatoes.
The meat, yeah. Because okay, now so the thing here from there is that we believe that you're created in such a way that, okay, certain information is what we use the term innate. Okay, so the first caller was dancing around this and he struggled with this, but there's certain things. Okay, take this as a claim, if you will. Okay, that we universally will more than likely agree is so. Like, I think across cultures, we'll find certain things where you will have that consistency, right? And included in that innate. Okay, so for instance, okay, a universal.
What does this have to do with the question, though? Is what I'm asking. Like, what does this have to do with the whether or not we should worship this God?
Yeah, why ought we worship God? Assuming he exists.
Okay, yeah, okay, so okay, so I have to take you on this very short journey. It's a very short journey, and also not putting words
Cliff,
in your mouth.
I'm not gonna lie, this has been anything but short so far. So our skepticism is kicking in, and we're kind of skeptical that this is going to be short. So why don't we just go with the why? Like, what reasons do you think we have to worship God if God existed? Like, why ought we worship God?
Okay. So my first claim, is that there's something we know innately, but then from there, the idea, that let's say, let's say the reality that if I were to look at, let's say, first century Rome, I look at ancient, so on, so forth, like look all throughout history, why that there is this, it's just like this, like across the board, there's this understanding that there's a belief in something greater than themselves. Now, not again, follow me closely here because I'm touching on. Cliff,
I'm gonna have to do this.
What are we saying? You haven't said a sentence yet. Like what?
I know I'm a co-host and not on in the hot seat, so I want to apologize to my host first.
By all means,
I feel like
I'm doing this longer than me anyway.
Well, I just feel like I'm stepping over, but if we can't get to the crux of the issue, we want to get to the other callers. It's nothing against you. I apologize if I'm being insensitive. It's just we're timed on this, and I don't know that I've heard even a proposition that I should be considering. So if you could, Cliff, just tell us why we ought worship God, and if not, we're just going to move on. And that's no offense to you. It's just we got a show to run.
So so I would say that it is impossible for you to receive that argument or an argument that would get you to believe based on what anybody could share with you. Now, so that's a straw.
What does that mean?
Now, if I could say, in other words, it's like, it's impossible for someone to convince you of this because actually, we believe that, see, the way that actually we're actually designed and created, and again, you can't escape Launchpad here. You can't escape where we're coming from. But see, we're coming from a completely different foundation. So it's like,
right, I agree that we're coming from a different foundation. We started this by saying, let's assume we agree on everything up to the point of this God deserves worship. I agree with you that he's real. I agree with you on all the things that were created this, that way, and that way. I agree on all of that. And we're all on the same page. And the only difference is the exact same God that you and I believe in. I say you shouldn't worship it and that it's evil and that it doesn't deserve any kind of praise. And you say that it does. That is the only thing that I want to hear. Like that. Where do we go with that? Why should we worship this God?
I have a hypothesis and we're not going to get the answer. Let's see if I have predictive success.
So if that were the case, then I would say, that, either you're not understanding the depth of wisdom in certain things, and also a combination with some of these things we've been commonly misled. Like, quick illustration, hell. Hell is not God tormenting people, hell is really just, again, back to how we're created, it's really just our own really conscience, again, going back to how we're created, just really becoming fully alive. We have no, and really our own conscience becomes the whip for eternity, and it's separation from that which is.
I'm sorry. I had to make it stop. I'm sorry.
I was about to ask him about an amoeba.
I had to make it. I'm sorry. My brain couldn't handle it anymore. I had to make it stop.
I was about to ask him literally one last question and just see where we went, and I was so done with that. Oh my gosh, it sucks because he was so polite at the very beginning, and then he didn't say a single complete sentence for over 5 minutes. It's like, oh
yeah, wow. It's just not fair to the other callers. It's not fair to the viewers.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. We have 16 people in the queue, man, and we're already coming up on an hour in. Okay, so from there we now move on to this.
I'm sorry, I couldn't do it. Yeah, it's like when I had this 90s toy that broke, and I couldn't get the stop. I couldn't get the batteries out of it. And it's just like Stone Cold tell you. It's like, oh my gosh, stop!
Gosh. We have merch, y'all. If that call inspired you to go buy a t-shirt, you can do so at tiny.cc/merch-ACA for your ACA t-shirts and mugs and hoodies and other AXP related materials. And of course, we also always want to thank our crew who helps put this show together. They are fantastic. They are the light of our lives. We have, except for that one who's in the dark, but like the rest of them are the light of our lives. We've got one super chat from James Call, who sent $5 to say, wearing my Hitchens Razor shirt today. It was preordained by Roland. Try to dismiss that. You can't. That's proof. And then $5 from Zoinks, who says, word salad schizo sophistry. It's painful. It's real bad, y'all. All right, so we've got a bunch of other calls here, and I'm scrolling through them, and there's a couple that I wanted to get to, and I'm hoping that they're still here. Let's see here. We've got, here we are. Mr. Warlight, pronouns he, him, calling in from Alaska, says that he has an argument for the supernatural that we just can't handle. That's what it says here in the call screen. We can't handle the argument. Mr. Warlight, you are on. How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. I like that intro you gave me.
That's what we've got written. I don't know if that's what you actually said. That's what it has in the screener here, and it just sounded too much fun not to play with. So tell me, what is your argument that we can't handle? Like, can you give it to us as briefly as you can to start with, and then we'll dig into it as briefly as you can while still doing it justice. I don't want you to cut anything important off.
Sure, man. I think that ghosts might be real. I mean, really, I think they might be real, man. Like,
is that your evidence that you think something, or like?
I think you're wrong. So I just disproved ghosts. And goats. I went to a winery yesterday, and I was actually hanging out with goats. So that's why. I don't know.
Yeah.
So you say that ghosts are real. Jmike and I would both strongly disagree. Do you have any evidence for this claim? And also, why does that prove to anything else? I guess you said the supernatural, so I guess that works.
Sorry. My evidence that ghosts might be real is there's so many haunted buildings, man. Like haunted mountains, haunted ships, haunted houses. Like so many of them, people have had so many experiences, man. If there's
are you perchance a Christian?
No.
Okay, but there's so many Christian churches all over the place. There's so many cathedrals and churches all over. So doesn't that mean that surely Christianity is real?
I think that's a completely different institution.
Why?
Because churches it's something that people go into and they have complete faith in it. It doesn't have any sort of background as far as like personal experiences, merits. It doesn't it's not something that people can prove.
Right. And neither are ghosts. That's the thing. There are lots of haunted houses for sure. There are lots of haunted hotels and stuff where people say, oh, I heard a bump and it couldn't have possibly been air in a pipe and therefore it's ghosts. And it's nothing that can be proved or demonstrated. It's the exact same thing.
Now back to Finding Ghosts Paranormal Show. We're on season 52 and we've yet to find a single ghost. So I'm just going to use kind of your position. There's so many shows that have so many seasons and never find ghosts. Strong inductive evidence against ghosts. Woo! I win by your own lights.
Oh, sorry. Again, I'm not saying they are real definitively. I'm saying they might be. I'm saying there's been enough experiences to where it can be tested.
So, but that's the thing is that lots of people have tried to test it and nobody has ever been successful at it. And so we have here this dearth of evidence, and like anything, I guess, could be real. If you really want to say, sure, anything somewhere out in the universe, in the infinite expanse, there might be a world that's exactly like ours with all the exact same historical figures and all the exact same timeline, except everybody's a kitten. That's a thing that could really be out there somewhere in the vast expanse of everything. But like, could doesn't mean reasonable or believable or anything.
Oh, but think of all the people who have been to like haunted venues and they've experienced things.
We've
think about all the people who have been to church.
Our show has done shows from haunted hotels or haunted places.
I literally stayed in a haunted hotel in New Orleans like 2 weeks ago, and it was nothing. It was fine. I didn't learn it was haunted until after I booked it, and apparently it was like the most haunted place on Bourbon Street, and it was just there. It was a room. So like,
I think the only haunting thing in that was having Dan's hand touched by a random person. That might have been a ghost. We don't know, but
well, I mean, just because something hasn't been proven yet doesn't mean in the future it can't be. Like, you know, dark matter has been hypothesized to exist, but it still hasn't been proven to exist.
Yeah, no, there's pretty significantly strong evidence for dark matter, the formation and shape of galaxies, for example. Like dark matter is the filler word that we give for this thing that we don't know what it is, but it's very obviously there, and like that's kind of what that's all about.
I don't think we're on like a epistemic par of comparing dark matter to ghosts.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for one thing, if we did a show about dark matter, like there'd be some content that actually like fills in all of the what was that? You know, it'd be like, oh, actually, here's a novel prediction that I'm making about dark. Right? It wouldn't be like, but so far out from what I hear is that people feel ways about stuff, and there's lots of people that feels ways about stuff. And that stuff is ghosts. Therefore, ghosts exist. Is that the argument? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
Oh no, there's actually more definitive.
So why don't we start with that?
What's the best evidence that you have for this?
Right. There's recorded incidents in history. Okay, aside from national registries registering houses as haunted because of multiple experiences there. But aside from that, there's historical occurrences. Such as, you know, there's people who
no. History does not look. This is not what historians do. They legitimately don't appeal to ghosts because that's not the method of what historians use. They use what's called an abductive method, right? Dealing in probabilities of what's most likely to be the case. Guess what fits in a big zero data? If we were like make an Excel spreadsheet or some database, guess what sits on the zero sign for confirmed ghosts, right? And if that's the case, then there's no reason, because you're talking about something that's not likely to occur or hasn't been demonstrated to occur. Why would a historian go against the methodology of what's most likely probable by going, you know what's most likely probable? The thing that's not likely probable or has, right? Why would they do that?
Also, I just want to point out that you said there's like this registry of different ghost experiences. There's whole conventions of people who say they've been abducted by aliens. There are people around today, thousands of people around today that gather together to talk about their alien abduction experiences. Why don't you take them seriously? Why isn't that a thing that you're calling in about, to talk about your definitive proof of aliens?
Oh, because I mean, there's a lot to that. So like, I don't necessarily believe that because alien abductions, there's never really been any like personal, like there's never been any like onset, you know, there's not like something we can observe constantly, like a haunted venue. We can't just go there and then see it ourselves.
Okay, so if like 50 people said they were all abducted by aliens and it all happened in this one particular field, then that would be evidence of alien abduction, because it's like this one particular cornfield that everybody can visit, and this is where the alien abductions happened.
No, because there's lots of explanations for that. Like it could be a government experiment. It could be, you know,
so could ghosts.
They're all
those haunted venues make money. Those haunted venues make money by selling tickets to go see the haunted thing. So if you're in a haunted hotel and they charge you $1,000 to stay in the super haunted room, don't you think there's an incentive for an employee to walk by and bang on the wall once every now and then to give you a spook? And then you say, oh my God, there was a ghost in the Bloobadoo, and you leave them a review on Yelp. Like, you'd think that there isn't any better explanation for this place. Seems like a lot of people think it's haunted, besides it actually is really ghosts.
I don't know, man. Like, that could be possible, but in other times that's not the case, because like I know personally, like I've worked at a hotel that wasn't historically registered as haunted. It wasn't even told to me it was haunted, and I've seen something happen that was unexplainable. And so
right, so that's the question then. Like, if you have something that's unexplainable, like something happened to you that was really crazy and you have no explanation for it, what is the most likely thing here? Like, what's the most likely scenario? Is it that something that nobody has ever actually documented, that we have no evidence for, that we have no way of knowing is true, that we have no tests for, no way of verifying, something that's been debunked a million times and has been completely vapid every time we look at it, that thing actually is real and affected you? Or is it more likely that you just made a mistake and you didn't know what happened and there was any number of random things that spooked you? The gust of wind, a squirrel, gas in a pipe, somebody farted in the next room, and you didn't know what it was. Like, what's the most likely scenario?
Well, you tell me, what would cause a door to open completely 20 times in a row and then shut 20 times in a row with no one there? What would be
I have no idea. But in order for me to believe that it's something supernatural, I would have to have a lot more than that. Like, I've got right behind me here, behind this bookshelf is a hallway, and my bedroom's on the end of this hallway. And every single morning when I walk out of that room, I walk down this hallway, and because of the nature of the hallway and the room, I don't know, the air pressure changes with me, and it slams the door behind me. I don't close the door, but every freaking morning as I walk down this hallway, it slams that door behind me every day. So, like, if I didn't know anything about air pressure, I would tell you I have hundreds of examples of a door being shut without me doing it against my will, and it wouldn't mean anything. So, like, yeah, wow, something crazy happened to you. That's freaking nuts. What's the most likely explanation? Something magical or just something you don't know about?
Which law of motion is it that says that the door can close and open 20 times in a row with no one there?
That's what I'm saying, dude. Even if you don't have an explanation, it's not a good reason to then jump to it's something supernatural.
Look, this is like, it's strange to me when people do this. They're like, I don't know what this thing is. There's a question mark. But the thing that I really believe is true, at any chance there's this mystery or this question mark, I'm going to like put it in there. That seems like the worst place for me to put something that I think is true. Also in conjunction with the fact that you think it's unexplained, but you're explaining it by ghosts. I mean, did you have any type of method to get you there? Can you falsify the claim? Or are you just saying, oh, my brain thinks it's this thing, and so I'm settling with that? I mean, if that's the case, it's extremely sloppy. I mean, did you perform a test? Did you just have an experience? You go, well, I don't know what it is. It has to be ghosts because, we've heard about this thing growing up called ghosts, and that must be it. I mean, have you ever, have you seen a ghost? You interacted with a ghost? And why does that make it seem like that's the most reasonable explanation, as opposed to you don't know all the conditions in the room, and so there's probably something at play?
Well, you can't see. I would say you can't see ghosts, but I would say that would actually be the most likely explanation. Like,
how would it be likely if we have zero evidence for the thing that's supposed to be likely? Like, it's like saying miracles are the most thing that, or it's like saying when Jesus resurrects, that the best explanation was that when Jesus died on the cross, the best thing to explain this with the body and all things that are detailed is that he actually resurrected from the dead. That's the best explanation. But when you notice it, it's really strange because resurrections or ghosts, these occurrences are things that are, like, by definition, not likely to occur, or they don't happen just all the time. And so why are we going to use anything that's not likely, just like by definition, as the thing that's most likely to explain the data? I don't get that. It makes no sense to me. Wouldn't you want to go with something with some background information of stuff, like your ignorance to conditions of rooms? I'm sure you've been in a room and had ignorance to the conditions that the way the rooms were, didn't know why a door shut, didn't know why a window shut. It seems strange to me that your hubris on it's going to side on, oh, it must be a supernatural thing, as opposed to like maybe my dearth of knowledge or my ignorance. That just seems strange.
Yeah, I would say, like, because there was no windows open. It could have been the wind, and also, like, with the Jesus thing, I don't think Jesus rising from the dead is the most likely explanation for that even. So I think that's a bad equivalent.
Right.
Well, I'm saying
that's what he was saying. That's the point.
Yeah.
So how do you know? Like, here's the thing. You said there's a door and it opened and closed all by itself 20 times. How do you know that there wasn't a secret government agent with a piece of fishing line who was closing that door over and over just to the sole intention of driving you a little bit crazier? What about that? Why wasn't that what it was? There's a secret Navy SEAL guy duct taped to the ceiling with a piece of string.
Because I would say that's even less likely. Like, that's even less likely than just
Which one of those things do you know for sure exists?
Yes, we know those things exist.
Secret government agents, string, and duct tape definitely exists. Ghosts, we don't know, right? So which one of those things for sure actually could be a possibility?
It's the ghost thing.
Okay.
How? Why?
So your let's break down your logic is we go on the Excel spreadsheet or whatever, we write on a piece of paper, we just go, all right, things we know exist, duct tape, and string, is that what you said, right? Or duct tape, string, and
government agents.
And government agents. And then on the other side, for ghosts, right, we have no verified evidence. There's just nothing there. But you want to appeal to that. Even like I could just say, I could literally say I farted, and it, every time I did that, your door opened and closed or something. At least there's like a demonstration. Yeah, that sounds absurd, but you have to understand you've opened the door to absurdities by saying ghosts possibly explain it. It's not like I'm doing anything different when I say like, oh, my farts can travel a distance and have such like a force on your door to pull it and push it, right?
True
Those
as that
both
may be.
They're both ridiculous claims, but at least in my example, we know farts exist. I mean, I just don't get this, like how it's more likely. It's just so weird to me.
Well, how would this Navy SEAL get past all the coworkers, man? Like they're like right out, like out.
That's the whole job. They're a Navy SEAL.
How do ghosts How do ghosts do ghost things? Do you have an analysis for that? Like, I mean, come on. How are we gonna cast a shade when you can't even give me like the mechanism for the ghost, its shape? Like, does it have a smell? I mean, come on. I mean, you have no tangibles on this hypothesis. There's nothing at all.
You literally just have a thing where you said, I don't know, therefore here's this whole new world that of like it's not just oh, there's a ghost. It's everything we now know about the whole universe has changed. There's apparently some sort of soul or spirit or something like that. There's a plane of existence here we don't understand. There's some sort of physical way in which this mental being can interact with physical, like everything about everything has changed. Or I don't know, the door closed. It was real fucking weird. I probably need to smoke less. Like that's it. Like what's the difference?
And what is so like if the door closed? That's the expectation of a ghost is they close and open doors. That's what they do. Like I don't even care if I believe
that. I want that.
I don't even care if I believe in that thing. What a useless fucking thing to believe in. Oh, I believe in the supernatural thing that closes and opens doors.
We save a lot of money on like doormen. Just sit there and let people in and out. That's great. We get ghosts to hire them.
I'm sorry, man. I can't tell if you're trolling or not.
No, but this isn't the full picture. Later, I found from the janitor at a completely different hotel across the street that there have been 2 deaths on that same floor. So I mean, look, and I don't think
Neat. I think. What about all the floors that people died on that didn't have a magical closing door? Does that falsify your hypothesis, or do those ghosts just not care about doors?
Maybe those spirits don't have an anxious tick that makes them open and close doors. I don't know.
Right. And so that's the whole thing is like now you have to add more rules to the thing that you can't prove exists in the first place. Here's this other hotel where somebody died and the door doesn't do that. Well, that means that this ghost has these interests and does these things. Whereas this ghost over here clearly wants to do that. And this ghost is a horse tamer. And this ghost over here is the plunger. And like what? It doesn't make any sense. And you have to add layers and layers and layers of contrivancy and nonsense just to try to make it fit into the weird box you're trying to create. It just do you understand? It doesn't make any sense what you're doing.
No, I don't think it's absurd. I mean, look, life is unpredictable. Some people might do crazy shit. Like maybe one day you'll go to a door and you'll open and close it 20 times. I don't know. Like I could do that any moment.
Maybe I will. But you'll be able to come and like poke me and prove that I'm real and take a picture of me and document my existence.
Okay, but like, I mean, look, spirits are not out of the realm of possibility.
I don't even know why I should care about the possibility of things that close and open doors. Like what use does that have in my life? What is that going to do for me? It's so dumb. I'm sorry. It's so dumb. Like, if you prove to me tomorrow that there's things that open doors, like, okay, that's great. Like, but then now I'm just left with, wow, the supernatural is really dumb. Like
that's kind of what I'm getting. Is like you've got so many layers here, and it all hinges on. But if this is real, it probably maybe makes sense. And like, yeah, if hippogriffs are real, maybe they'll unclog my drain in my kitchen. Wow, we now know more about hippogriffs. No, we don't.
Yeah.
I'm done with that one. I'm sorry, he hung up anyway.
Well, yeah, and if you're serious, tell me when like season 95 happens of some ghost show and they finally find the ghost and they trap it. I mean, I expect the kind of like they pull the mask off and it's like, oh, it's these meddling kids again. But and you know what, Forrest? There's actually something that's really, really funny that I saw on TikTok was this guy just put a camera up to his fuse box and he goes, my daughters are all playing with a Ouija board that I got.
I saw that one.
He just shuts it off and you just hear all the girls scream. Oh, this is so great. But that's something that actually is an explanation for the events. And if you're part of that, you wouldn't have the outside information. You probably won't know. It probably will go unexplained until they reveal that information. And you still might not believe it then. But at what point would you be rational to say, "Oh, it was really ghosts," or the piece of cardboard I bought at some stores like really had go?
That's what I'm saying. What kills me about it is like we even brought up like these at a haunted hotel they're going to do ghost things to scare and that doesn't make any. That's not really that likely. It's more likely that there's actually this insane supernatural thing like somebody pretending to be a ghost is less likely than a real fucking ghost. I don't get that. It's that's so hard. Hey, if you can be in the Austin area on March 26, 2023, we'll be broadcasting live from the Free Thought Library. You can join us for Talk Heathen, hosted by Secular Rarity and Christy Powell. Love Christy Powell. Followed by the Atheist Experience, hosted by Jim Barrows and Secular Rarity. Love Jim Barrows. Love Secular Rarity too. Didn't mean to single that person.
I was going to fill it in for you because I was like, well, since Forrest doesn't love everybody.
Right. I just happen to know the other two people better. Doors open at noon, and we hope to see you there. So go check that out. Parking, as usual, is just wherever you can find a legal spot. It is a small parking lot, y'all. So get there early. We have like 12 other calls, and I'm going to try to crank through as many as we can because oh my God, some of these are great. We've got, this actually might be a really interesting conversation. This is Abhishek, pronouns are he, him, calling from India, wants to know why it's so important to question theists in such a big way. Abhishek, how are you doing?
Hello there, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You've been waiting for a while, and I really appreciate it. So what it says here is that you were wondering like why it's important to us to question theists. Is that right?
Yeah, firstly, I had to say I haven't watched the episodes many times, but this was my, I think, second or third one. This was really something because this ghost conversation really was hilarious. Yeah.
Glad to be entertainment. So yeah, did you have anything else you wanted to like anything specific you wanted to elaborate on as far as like who we're questioning and why?
My question was exactly the same. I want to know why it's so important to question theists in such a big way without realizing the positive side.
So what do you mean by the positive side?
What I mean by the positive side is that I see a lot of people around me. I'm from India. I'm not from America, so I don't know if this is primarily for people who
क्या आप हिंदी समझते हैं?
हाँ जी, हम हिंदी समझते हैं.
Yeah, मैं थोड़ी हिंदी जानता हूँ लेकिन सीख रहा हूँ. Am I doing good? Am I trying? I'm trying to learn Hindi right now. So
you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, woo! आपसे मिलकर खुशी हुई. मेरा नाम Mike है.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to try that.
I'm Forrest.
Well, I had to show up Forrest because he spoke Spanish before we went on live today. So I had to show him up. So,
have you been watching a lot of Bollywood lately? That's why.
That's actually what was suggested to me to help, and it's helped a lot. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. I apologize.
No. It was fun. Yeah, the positive side I was trying to say is that it gives a lot of meaning to a lot of people. Like I see a lot of people around me, like my parents and other people who, if you try to take away the religion, take away religion from them, they become totally nihilistic, and I don't think that's good, and I don't think how that works. So I want your opinion on that. Yeah.
I think that's a great question.
Sure.
And really the whole thing is, you're right. Right now, the way that it's set up, a lot of people have been raised with this religion for so long that they can't imagine life without it. So they can't imagine, reality without it. And so they do become overwhelmingly nihilistic when they lose it, because they think that something so deep and personal and important and meaningful has been ripped away from them. And, what's life without this? The reason why it's important to question this and to really, question theists so hard, even though this is so important to them, is two things. Number one, because we care about what's true. So if I have a belief that means a lot to me and it makes me a better person and all this stuff, but it's not true, that's still important to know. And number two is that beliefs inform actions. What we do is a major function of what we believe. It's the result of what we believe. So if I have a deep, sincere belief that, for example, here in America, a big one right now, that homosexuals shouldn't have the same rights as heterosexuals, they shouldn't be allowed to get married, they shouldn't be allowed around children, and that they should be, we should be eradicating this lifestyle, so to speak, from public life and all these things. That's something that, even if it makes me happy and gives meaning to my life or whatever, it's going to make me a bad person, and it's going to make me go out and do bad things. It's going to make me work really hard to take away the rights and equality of other people. So when we have a lot of religions in the world that have really regressive standards and really regressive ideals that kind of put people into little boxes where they don't belong and keep people from fulfilling their best lives and fulfilling all the rights that they deserve, that's an issue. And that's mainly an issue here in America more than a lot of other places, I understand. But yeah, those are two things I would give you. That yes, it can be very painful, but it's still important. Number one, because the truth is important. And number two, because a lot of the religions, especially the ones that we deal with here in the US, end up actually causing people to be harmful to other folks around them. That's what I would give you. I can go into a lot more detail on that if you want, but I don't think it's necessary.
I would ditto the same thing.
Yeah, I'll talk about something personal. So my
Sure.
mother believes in God, and my brother is an atheist. Okay, he's become an atheist just recently, and he tries to take away that belief from my mother. And I've started seeing my mother be a little like, I don't know. Whenever I see her, she's like I was believing in this God for so long, and now it's being questioned in such a big way, and she's not very happy with it. Because I'm not saying that she was the happiest person in the world when my brother didn't do it, but there was a certain sense of faith, and there was a certain sense of something to live for. That is something that's missing, and so I question atheists in that way.
So the big thing here is that a lot of the times whenever we talk to somebody who's confronting their faith and maybe starting to deconstruct it and starting to, like, they're being presented with atheism the way you're talking about here. I've had people tell me, like, so you're telling me I'm never going to see my dad again. And what they're saying is they've never actually gone through the grieving process of losing a parent, because they assume they were going to see them after they die and they'll be in heaven together. And now they're having to face this scary reality of death for the first time as an adult. And that can really mess with somebody. Same thing with talking about their own mortality or talking about the meaning of life. You're telling me I don't have a purpose, that there's nobody watching over me, guiding me, telling me what to do. I'm all alone. I have to make all my own decisions. And if I screw up, then it's all on me and I'm responsible and nobody's there to save me. Like, these are really scary premises when you've never been around them your whole life. And so, yeah, it makes sense that somebody who's gone their whole life well into adulthood believing that somebody is watching them and judging them and guiding them and helping them, and that this one world isn't all there is, to then be confronted with the reality that actually you're 100% in this on your own. And when you're done. And this is all you've got. That can be pretty freaky. And there's a whole thing we call terror management, which is the idea of like coming up with ideas to manage, to mitigate that fear. Even thinking about something horrific, even believing that there's some secret shadow government of lizard people controlling the world, that's a lot less scary than you're on your own and nobody's watching and nobody's holding you accountable. And there is no divine justice, right? So that's something that a lot of people struggle with. That's not a unique scenario, but it doesn't lend any credibility to religion, unfortunately.
But what's the right thing to do? I'm asking in a situation like mine or similar situations like these. What's the right thing to do?
In my opinion, show compassion.
Yeah.
Is that, just understand that these people are going through something very scary and very hard, genuinely difficult, because you're having to develop new lines of logic and new ways of thinking and new ways of dealing with painful experiences, but also understand that it's necessary. So like, for example, here in America, at the beginning of this, I said that, beliefs inform actions and they make you do this, that, and the other. So like a great example is that here in America, about 44% of American adults believe that Jesus is going to return within the next 50 years, and that'll be the end of the world. Everything's going to be done after that. It'll be the rapture, the apocalypse, all this stuff. So, if you moved into a rental house and the landlord told you, hey, next week I'm going to change out all the carpets, I'm going to replace all the carpets, how well would you take care of that carpet? How much would you work hard to make sure you didn't damage the carpet, right? And so if 44% of the people here believe that within their lifetime the world's going to end, how much are they going to care about climate change? How much are they going to care about homelessness? How much are they going to care about like fixing systemic inequality? Because in just a minute, the world's going to end anyway.
Yeah, there's no generation to pass it to,
Exactly. So like, it sucks to say like, hey, you have to let go of this belief because I know it matters a lot. And I know it's very scary. And that's not to infantilize or to talk down to anybody. I understand that it's freaking terrifying to let go of your whole worldview and to now be completely alone, adrift, trying to figure out what's real and what isn't real. But it's really important that we do that, because if we can't come to terms with reality and we can't agree on the world that we're really living in, we're never going to make progress and we're never going to fix a lot of the problems that need to be fixed. So as far as what the right thing to do is, show compassion and also show persistence, because it is a moral good to do away with this kind of thinking. But it's going to be really hard, and you need to be really kind to the people who are going through it. That's what I would say. I
don't think I could add anything to the brilliance of what Forrest just said, except for the stuff about your brother, because I wouldn't be able to add. That was brilliantly said. And I agree with all of it. So I don't want to just echo. But as far as with your brother, a friend of mine had put it in a way that made sense to me, where sometimes when you become an atheist or you've just become an atheist, it's like you have this new shirt and you want to show everybody this new shirt. And I don't know if that's probably maybe what your brother's could be going through, is that he feels like he's wasted his life maybe, or he's come to this revelation. Maybe didn't have a sense of meaning and has more meaning and wants to share that. The thing that I find is kind of important is, that's going to pass at some point. At least I think. I'm more of a cradle atheist than I think a lot of people who might watch the show are coming out of it right now. So that transitional period is really hard for me. But I presume that he would eventually kind of, the new shirt's not going to be as cool anymore. It's not like, hey, look at me, look at this new shirt I got. He's not going to flaunt it in front of your mother's face. But the compassion thing's important, because stepping over the line, some people just don't want to have that conversation, and it's really rude just to force them into some conversation that they don't want to engage in. And so we have to remember, when we are, even though beliefs inform actions and we ultimately want to change the opinion, we have to also remember that there's some people that don't want to cross that line in the sand where they come over and defend their beliefs. They're so happy. In fact, they probably fear having to defend their beliefs because they know that they're not defensible or that they couldn't provide one. And so we have to be really careful about that. Whereas there's some truth to all of these, there's immense truth to these actions, or beliefs inform your actions, but also you don't want your beliefs to inform something onto somebody else, like that's just trying to, live life and they're not causing any problems with it, like, you know, your mother or your grandmother. And I typically tend to opt out of those conversations.
Yeah. Does that make sense,
Yeah,
Abhishek?
yeah. The thing with my brother is that he started into these all these kinds of reading these philosophy books and listening to Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and all of that. And I was watching one of Christopher Hitchens. Sorry, were you saying something?
Well, no, I was giving thumbs up for the first two things you said, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, love Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah.
He's a hero.
Yeah, I was watching one of Christopher Hitchens' interview, and he was talking in a very derogatory manner of religion, which he did, of course. But he was saying that I don't care whether I disrespect your religion. I don't really care. So I was just thinking that is it just become a thing of arrogance with people that they want to
he has to respect your mom, right? I mean, like, that's the distinction. Like, yeah, I don't respect a lot of religious beliefs, but I respect my mother and my father, and I respect my friends who are Christian, to try to treat the conversations as delicately as I can, without getting into all the meta type of stuff. But the problem and where that gets so hard is that you're talking sometimes to people who think, and I don't know in your case, but in some of my case, they'll say, oh yeah, 40, you know, or 2 bears coming out of the woods and mauling 42 children. It was justified. It was a good thing. Couldn't have been 43 or 41. It had to be 42.
Right.
And
that's a Bible story if you're not familiar.
yeah. 2 Kings 23-24, I believe. And that's like the hard thing for me, is that it's like, I respect you, and I want to have the best conversations I can with you. But if the person's expressed to me that they don't think it condones slavery, or they don't think that God like slaughtering of infants is bad to them, then I am going to start to kind of question them as a person and just see, I don't think you really believe that. I think I could tease out that you're actually against that. And there's a difference between that and just being like, I hate your religion. Anyone that believes in this is stupid. And that, like, atheism doesn't need any part of that, in my opinion. I don't think that's a good thing to do. You have to treat them delicately, because, I mean, nice atheists can be pretty damaging if you treat it really well, and you can get somebody to listen to you. I think Forrest has probably had an immense amount of success at this, whereas I get heated and I get pretty hot quick in some cases, and I don't know that person's going to want to listen to me afterwards. So we just
depends on what somebody says.
It's all about the context of the situation. I don't think there's like one right answer, but if it's your mother, he should treat, presuming he has respect for you, you should treat that with respect.
Yeah, I would just building on what Jmike said, just to go a little bit further. Like, there's this old saying that, like, we can agree to disagree on pretty much anything except for, like, my right to exist, right? And so, like, when you have, for example, there are people here in the United States, like, Matt Powell is a Christian preacher who says that all gay people should be put to death by the government. We should line them up against a wall and murder them all because being gay is so terrible, it goes against the Bible, right? So when you have this person who, I can be respectful to you as a person all day long, if you're going to sit here and say we need to be murdering people because my book says so,
exactly,
we're going to have an issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that, yeah, there are, and I'm glad that Jmike brought this up, there are a lot of shitty atheists out there. And very often there's kind of this trend where when you first become an atheist, you tend to be the most obnoxious person in the world because you want to go tell everybody about
look at my new shirt.
Yeah, look at my new shirt. And there's a reason for that. You're pissed off. You realize you've been lied to your whole life, and that there's something out there that you want to tell the world about, or you're just a jerk and you want to be obnoxious. Who knows what it is? But like, we've all had that angry atheist phase. But like, the whole thing is, if you have a group of, there is no one single thing where we say atheists can do this type of thing, atheists are this way or that way. However, you can point and say, the KKK is a religious organization for sure. There's no atheists in there. Al-Qaeda is a religious organization for sure. That's all. The Lord's Resistance Army is a religious organization. The Nazis are a religious organization. So we point to these things and we're like, okay, these people are reading these books and believing these heinous things. Even if there is somebody out there that reads the Bible and is just a nice dude who doesn't do anything to anybody and never hurts anybody, he's reading the same book. where these other people are getting these crazy, horrible ideas, it's worth talking about that book. It's worth challenging that book because somebody got something horrible out of it, and we should challenge that a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's really great advice. But there was this one question that I was thinking of. This is going to be my last question, so I'm not going to take much of your time. But I'm a theist myself, so I forgot to mention that. There is a thing that I think maybe you can tell me if there is something wrong with it. I tend to think that like science has been in this pursuit of going towards the truth, right? The objective truth, and we have produced these wonderful things in terms of technology and discoveries and all of that, which have helped us greatly. And I don't know about America. Maybe it's not seen too much in America, but like in India, in our religion, a lot of people were like the methods do take you somewhere, or maybe I'm just thinking that is it somewhat illogical to say that if you go down that path of truth, which is religion or spirituality, that will take you towards an illogical and not something that not something that you should look for. And if you're going for a scientific journey, in a sense that you don't believe anything that comes along your way, that helps you. Did you get my point, or I couldn't convey it properly to you?
I think so. I mean,
I think I understand. Yeah.
I think anybody though, like I think there might be an error in the way that, if I'm understanding you right, someone could hold to like all of these scientific findings, and then at the end of the day, just like God did all of that. We're just discovering what God's doing, and so in that sense, no, they're not being steered. But they have this huge wide gap where they can never use the same standard that they cherish in science, or that they value in science, and then somehow special plead and divorce it from the thing that's responsible for all that. And that's where, it being quote unquote illogical creeps up, because you're actually committing a fallacy. I mean, you're special pleading in some case, or I mean, just based on the way that you formulate how your reasoning is. I mean, you could have a whole host of other types of fallacious reasoning in that. So even in the best case, it's still probably going to have problems, in my opinion.
For sure. Yeah. I would say that the fundamental difference is that, like, if I'm going completely off of faith, I could have faith in evolution and faith in the age of the earth, and I could have faith in physics and faith in chemistry. I could, by completely faith alone, still believe in all sorts of things that are demonstrably true, but I could also use faith to believe in things that aren't true, and it would be the exact same meaning, and it would have the exact same methodology, and it would have the exact same value, in my opinion. With science, if I'm going through it with like a really objective way, and I'm trying to go with evidence and reason, then I'm only going to come to those things that are definitely true. And if I end up going somewhere else, it's because I stopped doing the science, So like there are whole organizations here in the US that they're, great, like Answers in Genesis and the Creation Research Institute and whatnot, that are actual scientists that then say, and therefore God is real because of all these things. And there's this gap where they say, we have all this stuff, and so we're going to go ahead and say that it actually means this. And really it's all about worldview, and really it's all about faith, and really and they make these stretches that nobody ever does anywhere else in science, and that they don't ever do for anything else either. So that's the big difference. Like when you ask, could you go somewhere good with religion? Sure, you could, but it would be by accident. It would just be a random chance that you did that. Could you go somewhere bad with science? Absolutely. But you'd have to screw up doing science in order to get there. You'd have to be doing science wrong to get down that path. If you're doing everything right, then going with the objective, evidence-driven, worldview of trying to figure out what's true based on the best evidence you have is only and always going to lead you to true things. Whereas faith is kind of a crapshoot. It's up in the air. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that answers my question very well. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hey, you've been fantastic, Abhishek. I hope you call back again sometime.
And apologies for my my broken Hindi, but it was Apsi Milker Kushihu. It was good to meet you.
No, you two guys have helped me a lot in advising my mother how to deal with these situations. Thank you. I've been very tense about this for a long time. Yeah, thank you.
The questions that you asked and the way that you asked them show that you care a lot, and I think that you're a cool person and you're definitely a good son if these are the kind of questions that you're asking.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And check out the fan groups and stuff like that if that helps you. You can engage with other people. You don't have to be alone in this. You can talk with other people about this. And
yeah,
by the way, a lot of people have experienced this or experiencing it right now. You might get way better advice from people there because they're experiencing something that I haven't had to really go through. My deconstruction of beliefs was more spiritual and conspiracy kind of oriented. So they weren't like there's bad beliefs in my opinion, nonetheless, but go talk with some people there. I think it will help.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll surely check it out. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day, sir. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.
What an incredibly nice dude. All right.
Yeah,
so
I want to hire him as my tutor now. Just teach me Indian.
Seriously. So we've got still a huge amount of callers left. I don't think we're going to be able to fit everybody in the show, but I'm going to try. We may run a little bit over if things keep getting good. Really quick, have you ever said to yourself that, man, I really love the content that the ACA creates, but I wish there was some way that I could like get it all the time? I'm going to say this again at the end of the show, but I want to let people know now that like we've got like a 24/7 AXP TV live stream that's going on right now. And you can tune in at any time of the day and experience a constant stream of the shows, the clips, and the specials from over 26 seasons of the Atheist Experience. Or you can just listen to your favorite hosts and discover the same hosts that you've never, some hosts that you've never heard of. You can watch it all at tiny.cc/AXPTV to join in the fun. Those are all things that you can do. So we've got a bunch of callers left. And I see like, oh man, I want to try to get as many as I can. I think we should go for this one right here. This is Andrew calling in from Canada, who says that science proves the Bible and can explain why. Andrew, you're on AXP. How are you doing?
Hey, Forrest. I'm doing really well. First off, I want to say I'm a big fan, and I'm taking up a theist mantle on this. I need your help. Okay, so the argument for the Bible is actually old science textbooks. Old science textbooks have outdated information, and we don't toss out every theory in an old science textbook because some of the information is bad, right? Like phrenology, for example, is in old textbooks. If you get a science textbook from the 1800s, it'll have accurate descriptions of like the solar system and Earth, and then you get into like descriptions of Africa, and it gets a little dicey, right?
Sure.
So we continue to like look at the theories in those books, and we analyze them, and we throw away the stuff that doesn't work, but we keep the stuff that does work, right? And we analyze each claim on its own. The other thing is that like we're not talking about like a 200-year-old textbook. We're talking about a 2,000-year-old source. It was originally written in Hebrew or some other language, and translated to Latin, and then translated to English, and it's gone through how many people? So there's bound to be like lost context, lost subtext, stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So is it like, but the question is, would you still go pick up an old outdated science book today and look to it for any kind of reasonable information? Or would you say, I can't tell what's good or what's bad in this, I should probably go get something more updated?
Well, now, if the only thing that you had was that 200-year-old textbook, but you had people that you could go and talk to today to kind of like sort through that, like if all of a sudden the only thing that we had was the 200-year-old textbook and what we have from memory and what we have from like current scientific sources, we would be able to rebuild or build a much better book than that one there, right? We would be able to improve that 200-year-old science textbook and kind of rebuild it or shape it for modern times, right? That's never happened with the Bible.
Right, because it doesn't need to, is the thing.
Well, I would argue that it does, because like it's too old. And if we actually start, I got myself into a trap here, man. So I was looking at the creation story.
Mhm.
If we look at it with the idea of lost context, lost subtext, and it was an attempt to explain the world with the information that they had, right?
Agreed.
Like, so the idea that the world was made in 7 days, well, we know that that's not accurate now. So that's like, what's more likely, that that was the absolute, or that that was what they were using like a literary device, or they were trying to form the concept of like the Big Bang and oh man, I'm looking at my notes here and I'm like, this is weird.
So the question I have is like, why is it necessary to try to say that we need to revamp the Bible? Because I agree with you. It was our first attempt at a science book. It was trying to write down all the oral histories that we had, explaining where we came from and why we are who we are, and why we behave the way that we do. It was a guide to morality. It was a guide to life. It was all of these traditions compiled down into one thing. Sure. What's the value in revamping it? Because if I want to say, well, if we tweak the origin story this way and that way and add this context and add this subtext and put this in, then you kind of get something that sounds a little bit like the Big Bang, and therefore that's what's in here. Why would I do that? Why wouldn't I just say, here's the principles of physical cosmology. If I want to learn about a thing, there I can look this up. I don't need to go reinterpret the Bible. I can just go pick up one of these and I can make that work. What am I gaining out of the Bible that I wouldn't be able to get out of any other random textbook, from science? Like, I have the science textbook. Why do I need to make the Bible into a science textbook if I already have the science textbook? What am I getting out of the Bible that I wouldn't be getting otherwise? What's the value that the Bible brings?
The pursuit of spiritual knowledge. So we've got like knowledge of the physical world, we've got philosophy, and we've got this outdated and like, okay, so philosophy has not caught up with technology, right?
Mm.
Like, there are lots of tech things that there's some massive philosophical questions behind the advancements of technology, right? So technology is outpacing philosophy, and both of those are outpacing spirituality, because the last time that a serious attempt was made to boil it down into something was 2,000 years ago, and people have closed their minds off to it since then.
Okay, so now the follow-up question, why wouldn't we just invest in the pursuit of philosophy? Why wouldn't we just have philosophers do some philosophizing and come up with ideas, and we can sit around the table and talk about what's the benefit that specifically the Bible's bringing that it needs to be updated? Why couldn't we just read the Bible and be like, hey, it says this stuff, I don't really like it. It says this stuff, that was pretty cool. We'll keep this thing, move on, make our own new philosophy that fits the world.
The Bible, like it's all religious texts. Like just the same as like any scientific theory, any philosophy, any spiritual theory. Like what is the value in completely excluding spirituality from the pursuit of, from the
what spirituality?
Like we agree that scientific pursuit is valuable, right?
Sure.
And advancing technology, advancing medicine, that is beneficial to mankind.
Yeah.
Would we also agree that advancing philosophy to be able to tackle those issues, the technological issues, that's also valuable?
Sure.
Well, in my argument is that spirituality is another
I don't even know what
pillar.
I don't even know what that is, but I don't know. We don't even know what is that. Like, if someone's just using a grunt, spirituality, it's just a grunt you make with your mouth. I don't even know if there's a referent to that. So like, I'm not into this like begging the question and assuming that spirituality is a thing for us to like revise and figure out. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. If we're just using a word to refer to nothing, then that's what we're doing. That construct of getting to that, I don't really, maybe I'm not understanding, but I'm not really
in kind of just grunt.
No, look, there's a Phil Paper survey about what is philosophy. The question's nobody agrees. Nobody agrees. Not even philosophers agree on what it is in that sense. So, I mean, some would say it's love of wisdom. For me, it's just, I just want to come to truth. And I think that's a tool that can be used with like deductive arguments, or at least it can kind of sit on the outskirts of science and like philosophy of science and stuff like that, but not really. It's going to have its place, right, in the seams of different domains. And if spirituality is just real, then you should have some type of method or mechanism. So here, let me just put it in like the easiest way I can. And I just broke the first commandment.
No philosophers agree on what philosophy is, right? So,
I'm not saying.
Wouldn't there
No,
be
I'm
a
saying
clear definition of what it is? So why philosophy over spirituality? I'm saying that
listen,
should be looked at and advanced together. That
there's
be disregarded.
Listen, I'm not okay. Real quick, I'm not done. What I'm saying is that like not everybody. There are people that obviously agree on what something is in philosophy. What all I'm trying to express is that there is no consensus in philosophy. It just doesn't really exist. We get consensus in something like science. That's not to like bash on philosophy. I love philosophy. I'm wearing a shirt that says philosophy on it. I love philosophy.
Me too, dude.
It's one of my favorite hobbies to read papers and books, and I love it. I absolutely love it. The problem is though, is that philosophy is doing something in one case, like science is. We have these ideas in our head, and what we need is a mechanism to go from in our head to actual. They're actual in reality, right? There's this corresponds to what's actually there. And if you just have spirituality like separated or something, I mean, I don't even know what method you're using to get there, but I don't see why anybody should care about like saving this concept that we don't even know actually refers to anything in the world, has a good definition that people can agree on. If there's a method involved, like philosophy has, like a deductive arguments or something like that, then you could provide something like that for spirituality. But I don't really understand this whole like going back and rebuilding it. Truth has nothing to fear from investigation. So if spirituality is true, whatever that is, presumably you can take that imaginary concept and show that it reflects the reality that me, you, and Forrest all share. And that's the thing that I'm going to care about. All this other stuff, I don't see the point. It seems to get in the way of, here's a method on how I can show my imaginary thing in my head is not just imaginary. Science does that pretty well. Philosophy does that pretty well. I think he hung up.
No, it says he's still there. Andrew, you still there? Oh,
yeah, I'm still here.
Andrew.
I'm still here.
Oh, there you are. Oh my God.
Did you get what I'm saying? Like if you have this belief, I'm trying to just bring it, and maybe I'm missing what you're saying. I'm just trying to bring it to the core. If you think that there's something like spirituality, great. You should be able to have a method to determine that. If it's science, if it's philosophy, all the doors are open. I've used the example on the show several times that, me and Forrest opt for a hammer, which we'll just call science, to build houses. That's great. If you have another method to build houses or to get to truth, then show us. It's just the case that when I look over at people who say this, they have an empty lot. And I look back over at me and Forrest, and we've built fucking cities. And then I look back over and they're on top of our cities shouting, oh, there's other ways to do this, right? Whether it be TikTok or YouTube, or they're using platforms like this. And I'm still just looking at their lot going, there's nothing there. You don't even have foundation. You can't even take me to a department or like a Home Depot and show me what aisle to buy the tool is in. And if that's the case, I'm just not really interested in that conversation, because someone's trying to weasel out of having to do actually a rigorous analysis. And I don't like that. I don't like sidestepping rigorous analysis that we actually know work.
There hasn't been rigorous analysis of spirituality in 2,000 years, and that's why we have all these outdated ideas and these outdated concepts on it, and it's so difficult to explain. And philosophy, it's more up to date, but it's sitting in kind of the same camp where, like you said, there's not really any one consensus, and it means different things to different people. And that's the same with spirituality, right? Like, and
well, no, they're not the same. They're not the same. There's an asymmetry. There's an asymmetry, and the asymmetry is that in philosophy you have something called a priori knowledge, a posteriori knowledge. Science deals with empirical knowledge a posteriori. So does philosophy. Philosophy of science or other things. It's not exclusive, but there's this notion of a priori arguments or deductive arguments. In philosophy, that's most of the papers you read, it'll spend all this time, and then here's a form, like the formalized version of what I've been saying this whole paper, so that it's a valid and sound argument, or maybe it's not sound, but It's a valid structure and the conclusion follows from the premises. That is different than spirituality, because me and Forrest don't know what the hell people are even talking about with that, nor is somebody saying, hey, look at this deductive argument. And even if they did, I have to say, okay, it proves a concept called spirituality, but you haven't even defined that. Like, there's just a boatload of problems that I don't even know how you get off the ground. And if you just concede that for 2,000 years we've been wrong, then this proposition isn't justified. It doesn't seem that anybody knows what the hell they're talking about, hence the failure.
I have a totally different thing that I want to bring back to whenever you get done with this as well.
Oh, I'm done. I'm sorry. I just
no. Whenever he answers, because
Yeah.
you said something earlier on that bothers me, but I want to make sure you answer, Jmike.
Oh, I'm like I said, I'm taking up the theist mantle on this, but I am an atheist, or I think I'm an atheist, and I want you guys to really pick apart the way that I'm thinking and help me find the problems in it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You need a method.
And I'm trying to see that asymmetry.
You have no method.
But
you have nothing. You have no method that takes something in your head that's imaginary for this claim, this idea in my head, and showing it's reflective of reality. That's as simple as I can put it. If you can do that thing, that's what science does. I hypothesize this thing. If it's not true, we should expect this thing. Oh shit, that thing came true. Falsified. Right? That's being like epistemically humble and responsible.
Okay, but what about philosophy for that? That's where I'm not seeing, that's where my disconnect is, because I know that science stands apart. Like, I fully believe in the scientific method, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, science is wrong. Like, science is the most advanced, knows the most, right? Philosophy is lagging behind. What I'm trying to see
we're just filling in where philosophy was huge. We are filling.
What method does philosophy have for demonstrating the real world? Like, what other people religion would need to do?
Well, I mean, people can use deductive arguments. That's what most people usually try to do. But there's still questions on whether or not that works, right? Whether or not I could give a deductive argument why God doesn't exist, and a theist is just going to probably deny one of the premises. What I think philosophy does, the thing that I'm pretty confident on, is very similar to Occam's razor. It's this idea that we take explanatory virtues, things that we want in explaining the data, and vices, things that we don't want. Right? One of the things that we do want is simplicity. We don't want to have just all these entities added to our hypothesis for no reason that serve no explanatory role. So you want a hypothesis or a view or a theory. And by theory, I just mean like a metaphysical theory or how you think the world is, not like a real theory. When you have you have a worldview comparison in philosophy. And I think people like Graham Oppy do this really well, where they compare naturalism to theism or versions of theism. And hey, we agree on fine tuning for the sake of the argument. Here's why naturalism actually favors that. Oh, we agree that this is why naturalism favors that. And the reason why that works in a sense is that we both agree on the principles. If me and my interlocutor say we want a simpler theory that best explains the data, and boom, then we can trade off kind of views on which one's simpler. And I don't think like metaphysics is going to be like, here's how you saw. That's not a thing. I don't think we're not touching anywhere near that. Philosophy was a big, wide thing. Then science came along and took a big, giant chunk out of it, right? Art, all these things. And now philosophy is just the seam that kind of sits in between those domains. It's not like proving things. It's helping and guide in other domains. And that could help in your spirituality domain. We don't even know if there's a there.
That's what I'm arguing that spirituality would do. It's not a full domain like science. It's more of like a side domain or a guide domain. You know what I mean? Like philosophy.
I don't see any literature written. Like, I can go to philpapers.org and I can go look up like Joe Schmidt's papers on like aloneness or something. Right? I can look up all these things, and there's nothing like some place that you have people submitting papers with arguments. If they did that for the spirituality thing, they're just making a philosophical argument for spirituality. And that's all I'm asking. You can try to do that, or you can say it worked with science. Clearly, if that was a settled debate, I don't know that we'd have a show and be talking about this stuff. It's clearly the case that seems that there's something to fear from investigation, because nobody's really coming up with some method at which demonstrates the supernatural or the spiritual. And that's not really my problem, that people want to have these beliefs and not be able to demonstrate it. I can just call it out when I see it. I don't think saying, oh, there's this spiritual thing, so therefore this concept, therefore we should like try to work with it. No, I mean, if I had a concept of electrons or something and I falsified that and electrons didn't exist, then we do away with that concept. Like, it's done. Finito. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
but that's not the
kind of my
case.
big thing is like this whole thing you were talking about at the very beginning, that the Bible was like our first attempt at like understanding the universe. And I agree it was, but because it was our first, it was also our worst. And so like, I don't see any benefit from that kind of thinking when that kind of thinking has been shown to be completely, unproductive. It doesn't do anything. You can try to draw some deep personal meaning out of it, have fun, do whatever you want. It doesn't do anything for anybody else. You're very quickly trying to see why I am not into philosophy. I like it. It's fine. It's just not what I do for a living because like, I want results. And if you have this thing where you're like, hey, these people thought that the earth was flat and that you had to bury children in post holes to stop wind spirits from knocking down your buildings. And whenever you were on your period, you had to bring a turtle dove to the priest to atone for bleeding or whatever else is in the Bible. Nito bandito. That's not important to me at all. It has no bearing on my reality. And like we talked about at the beginning, if there's a really outdated textbook, if I pick up an old physical anthropology textbook that talks about how different races of people have different brain sizes and therefore these people are more ape-like than human than these people, that's outdated bullshit knowledge that was debunked really early on. I don't need to sit there and pick through that to try to find the little bit of sweet corn in that turd. I can just go on to the new thing that we've actually proven with empirical evidence and just completely ditch all that old stuff. I don't see the value in any kind of spirituality whatsoever.
Imagine that we go, you know what, that concept of appeasing the gods or controlling the weather, we need to go back to that, start sacrificing stuff. And maybe it's a different way. Maybe it was the way that we sacrifice. Like, I don't really see.
Yeah. That's a mischaracterization of my argument. So what I'm saying is that, like, okay, so something applicable, something demonstrable in society, the divorce rate has increased as the amount of atheism has spread, right? Like, now there's a lot that contributes to that, but a more traditional society tends to have, like, if people believe that if they get divorced, they're going to go to hell, they're probably not going to get divorced, right? So there is some social benefit in that fear-mongering or that uniformity, right? Now,
how is that a social benefit? Are you kidding? Dude, come on.
About getting that uniformity, okay?
Dude, just adds...
the reductios
Andrew,
you could do on this view are immense.
This, oh my God, Andrew, riddle me this. What do you think is more responsible for the increased divorce rate? Do you think it's atheism and getting rid of this worldview about the importance of a household and that you're not going to go to hell if you get divorced? Or do you think it's that people were no longer being trapped in marriages and that women had the right to leave a marriage and go get a career and take care of themselves? Which one of those do you think is more responsible for the divorce rate?
Well, that's a
Hello? Did we lose you?
Hey, no, sorry. My phone, I guess when my screen goes black, it cuts me off. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So that's a difficult question to answer because there's like second marriages and third marriages and stuff like that, right?
So when it turns out that when we gave women the right to decide who they're married to and what they're going to do with their life and their career, there were a few more divorces because women weren't being trapped in abusive relationships with no recourse and no way of getting out and no way of sustaining themselves. So yeah, we see an increased divorce rate, and that's a great thing because it means that people are able to escape shitty relationships.
Yeah.
So like, even if we were to agree that it's a better thing for people to stay married when they don't want to be, which I don't know where you get that has nothing to do with like, they need to now believe in some sort of biblical principle.
That's not what I'm saying either. I was saying there's an incentive. There's more of an incentive. Like if you believe you're going to go to hell if you don't make your marriage work, you're going to try to make your marriage work. You're not going to, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and that's evil. Yes.
Yeah, that literally doesn't evade anything Forrest said. It's forcing people to like forego their happiness or maybe their freedom because of some all like artificial thing that they don't know is true or not. Like how is that a good thing? And I don't see how you don't understand.
No, it's not forego happiness. That's not what I'm saying. There's more incentive to
if they can't be happy without leaving. If it's a situation where they can't be happy without leaving, and you want to push something that forces them to go downhill, so to speak, on the well-being scale or something, then I'm not seeing the benefit in this. Like I can make something up to make you not hang up or get off the phone. Like your life is, you know, like Roland's going to come and slaughter you or something. But like, I mean, why would I want to force, Forrest, help me out here. I'm so confused by this.
I'm saying that aspect of it is outdated and it shouldn't be, but the spirituality.
Have you ever thought, Andrew, have you ever thought it's a good fucking reason why these things are outdated? Have you ever thought of that?
That's precisely where I'm going. Just like, these are wonderful things that we're slowly getting rid of and we should be getting rid of faster. And you're here like, well, but what about the change? We can't change it. Like, yes, we can and we should.
What about when people didn't have freedom? All right, should we like, I mean, where do you draw this line? It's so
throw out all of the trash. Like, Buddy survived in the whale and like, all of the stuff that we can prove to be garbage.
No, you want to put the trash back in. That's what you're trying to do. We're trying to throw the garbage away, and you're just coming in the room and throwing the garbage around the room.
No, I want to use science to pick apart the Bible and find what is true in it.
Yeah, lots of people have already done that, and we found not a lot of true things, and the true things are largely inconsequential. So that's been done. And now we can move on from that and we can just have just the true things and we can throw out the rest of the Bible. Why do we need any other part of the Bible ever anymore forever?
Who cares about
I think we should keep the Bible around because it's useful as a literary thing. A lot of Western literature is influenced by the Bible and you won't understand it if you don't know a little bit about the Bible. That's a thing that we could say is useful with the Bible. Does nothing for our mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever that is, well-being.
Yeah, and Andrew, before we go,
in the direction where I can start a search for that, like that breakdown of what is
let me real quick. Can I ask
analyzed in the Bible? Because I'm actually interested in that.
Yeah, but real quick, I don't want to get us off on a side thing. Please remember that question. I don't want to take that away from you. But I guess if you have this view on utility, you agree that utility of something or appeals to emotion does not equal therefore true, right? Like we agree that that's a non sequitur, right?
Absolutely.
Great. Then you're talking about something that has no use to me. I don't care about the utility. I don't care about if it appeals to emotions. That seems to just be you admitting that you're not concerned with the question of whether or not it's true. You're concerned with the question of whether or not it benefits you. I don't care about that. That's just that's so uninteresting to me. That might be interesting to you. I have no stock in this idea that it makes you feel good because I've never had to fill those gaps with like spiritual, and so I'm just so divorced from that reality. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't want to be pulled to somebody's level of saying like, oh, well, these things benefit people. I honestly feel bad for these people. If you seriously can't be happy with the relationships, my family, they give me a gift, right? They give me a gift. Meaning they give that to me. It's a gift for me, right? And it's not like I asked for it. It's not like I chose to be born. I just got it, fell out of the picture. That means a lot to me because I talk to a lot of people who can't ever talk to their family anymore because they left their religion or their friends. Yep. And if that's right, if I can point out that there's some real notion of meaning that I'm having that somebody they really desperately want, but it's been kind of stripped away from them, I'm just really not like seeing how this is something that is an appeal to an emotion and you just care about bolstering some kind of like psychological status, which I think is a good thing. I think we should make ourselves feel happy, but not at the expense of gullibility, right? I mean, just go buy, buy snake oil. And that's what you're doing right now. If you think that that's going to help.
You know what? Honestly, that breakdown right there, that like I said, I was putting on the theist mantle. I started this thought process as an atheist, and I got myself into a trap. And I'm like, you know what? I want to talk to these guys that are smarter than me so that they can break it fucking down. Yeah, no, like
we look. I mean, Andrew, you'll have to think about a lot of all this stuff.
Like, there's like, and when I'm looking at my notes here that I've got about like this whole rabbit hole that I went down, it's like, what is the use of it? What fucking benefit could come? Oh, sorry, sorry, I didn't mean to swear.
You're fine. What benefit? You're okay. We're past the first few minutes, man, so we're in the clear.
Okay.
We're well past the first. Number one. Yeah, we've got to wrap everything up, Andrew. We've got a ton of other callers, and I think we only have time. We don't even have time for one more. We're gonna do one more, but like we've got to wrap the show.
One more. But Andrew,
sorry I took so much of you guys' time, but I appreciate you helping me break that radical thought process. You guys are awesome.
Well, let me stress that if you, because I expect that you'll still have some maybe doubts to get off the comment. Did what he say make sense? That'll occur. And it should naturally occur. Do not fucking listen to me and Forrest and say that is necessarily the case. Do your own independent research. Think for yourself and make yourself somebody that develops critical thinking skills where you're not going to be conned by NFTs and all this scammy crap that you can find. This whole thing isn't just about, the religious stuff and the utility. The reason why the truth matters is you protect yourself. You protect yourself from a bunch of people that want to take advantage of your gullibility and some fragile state that you might be in. Hence, a lot of people in the self-help realm, right? Self-help gurus. And they make all the rest of them look bad who are generally trying to help people. And so I just look for yourself. Do not just take anyone's words. Build your standards to a point. I think you'll get to a point where it'll coincide. For me, it got to a point where this is like what they do in science. I feel happier. I feel less gullible and dumb and stupid. But not saying that you are or anything, but that was my
no. Well, like I said, I got myself down this rabbit hole, man, and I started using faulty reasoning that I couldn't see. And like I said, the whole reason that I wanted to come in absolutely like on that side of the argument was so that you guys could really pick it apart. And I try to play devil's advocate and view all sides as best I can. And
you should.
Like I really appreciate your guys' time on this one, because that was exactly what I needed.
I think your intentions are all in the right area, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. Happy to be of service, man.
You guys
Thanks so much
have
for
a
calling
great
in.
night.
You too. Take care.
An awesome one, and thanks for chatting.
Of course.
Hey, it's our pleasure. Thank you for being here. All right, so we've got a ton of other calls on the line still, and even then, like there's no way we're going to be able to get all these. I really wish we could, because like holy crap, we have so many. So really quick, we're going to go through the super chats that I've missed so far. We've got Mike L.A. Whaley sent $20 to say, Jmike and Forrest are the reason I wake up on Sundays. Keep doing great, guys. Thank you so much. It's very kind.
I read that, and that made me so like, whoa.
That's incredibly kind.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Michael Sitters sent $5 to say, thank you guys for the great work. Thank you for watching. Blind Limey, member of 2 months, sent $5 to say, this is the most surreal AXP I've witnessed in a while. Is this real life? Are these my feet? Have we ever been so far as like? Have we ever been so far as like? Allison the Animal sent $14.99 of Australia money. Whatever you guys have down there, kangaroo bits, I don't know. Says, hi, Forrest, can you please do a reactoria on the Project Hybrid episode of Ancient Aliens? They tell so many lies about human evolution, including that we evolved from chimpanzees. It's just awful. That actually sounds really fun, and I will write that down and I'll look into it. Project Hybrid Ancient Aliens. We'll look that up for sure.
Closest relatives confused with something.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they think a bonobo and I'm not going to get there.
Then we've got Jayarb sent $9.99. How do you feel about natural morality? My friend sees our evolutionary inclination towards morality as proof of God. He'd doubt God if he could find someone devoid of any empathy or moral compass. Yeah, so like there is an evolutionary implication for morality. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, you can very easily find people who are devoid of what we would call morals, either through some sort of psychopathy or through brain damage. Huge proportion. Look up the percentage of people on death row for like murder and rape and all these horrible things who also have a history of frontal lobe brain damage. It's a very high, it's a strong correlation. You know what I mean? And you can look up cool things like Phineas Gage, a dude who was very kind and gentle and hardworking and honest and sober, and then in a railroad mining expedition accident had a lead pipe or steel pipe blown through his head and completely cauterized off the front half of the frontal lobe of his brain, and from the next day forward was cruel and mean-spirited and vindictive and sexually aggressive and predatory and everything else. So yeah, there's a million case studies in there that you can play with. It's Mirror on the Wall sent $5. Deconstructing Christian who is homeschooled and was taught young earth creationism for science. I'm so sorry. In your 30s, never learned about evolution. What are some resources to learn more? I always recommend picking up old textbooks. You can literally go online. This was my undergrad evolutionary biology textbook from college. It's called Evolution, Making Sense of Life by Carl Zimmer and Douglas Emlin. You can probably buy, this was the second edition. Like if you go online and look up your local community college or whatever, and a lot of the times they'll publish what textbooks they need for their classes and whatever. And then you go on Amazon, you type in that textbook name and you look up the last edition, because textbook companies make a killing by publishing a new edition every year that says the same damn thing in a different order, and then they sell it for $500, and you can buy the last edition for $35. So go buy, not super outdated, but like a year or so, and read textbooks. Or if you really want to, there's this gross little weirdo named Forrest Valkai who has a YouTube channel, and there's a whole series, a 4-part series called The Light of Evolution, which details out what evolution is, how it works, how we know it works, and what that information means. It's 4 videos that are super easy to watch, and you can find those. Just Google my name on the YouTubes, put that in there and you'll find them. That's what I would do.
I've had luck going to I guess like thrift stores in the book sections, and some people will sell their books just to get quick cash, but you got to be careful because some of those will be like from like 1986 and stuff. So I have a bunch of biology books that are completely outdated.
You can always
find them like $2. So
yeah, no, that's the thing is like I love old, like just finding textbooks because I know that there's like going to be a reference section. I can like play into that.
Exactly.
But like there's plenty of popular science writing. This is Why Evolution is True by Jerry Coyne is really popular. The Greatest Show on Earth by Richard Dawkins is great. I'll flip. Undeniable by Bill Nye. A lot of people really like that one. Goes over all this stuff. Carl Zimmer, the guy who wrote that textbook. Here's this Evolution, The Triumph of an Idea by Carl Zimmer. That's a cool one. Like you can go on and on, man. Like there's a million good popular science books out there that you can easily pick up. Or like I said, like start with that one, or grab even a more simple one. If you're really not confident, go get like an essential, like a super freshman level intro to biophenomenology. This is Essential Biology by Campbell. I freaking like Campbell is the company. But I've taught, I can't even tell you how many classes for high school and early college out of this. Like it's so easy. And this is a super outdated one as well. I would get a newer one than that, but like, yeah, just I always recommend old textbooks. That's my favorite way to do things.
Forrest, tell me that you didn't have this in school where that big TV would be wheeled into your room and then they'd throw Bill Nye and everyone would just be like, Bill, like the whole class.
Absolutely.
Oh, so great.
Absolutely.
Miss those days. Anyway.
That's who I want to be when I grow up. And then we've got Mike L.A. Whaley send another $10, say, quote of the day, find the sweet corn in the turd, Forrest. Yeah, that's that one will go down in history. Okay, so with that, we've got, like I said, we've got a ton of calls left, and I want to get through as many as we're going to get through one more. Do you have a particular one that you're liking? Because I see one that I'm thinking would be fun.
Go for it.
Okay, we're going to go with Chuck in Hawaii. Says that matter and space and stars and the earth are all eternal, and something must have caused that. Chuck is going to be the super fast call, but I want to give you the time that you deserve. How are you doing today?
Okay. Thanks for talking to me. It's kind of neat to talk to a scientist, actually. That's willing to discuss these things. That's kind of weird. Do you really?
It is strange.
As a scientist, do you believe that oxygen is eternal?
Oxygen?
Yeah.
No.
You breathe it in.
It's just a.
Well, it isn't used up.
Yeah, no,
it doesn't decay away.
But it can. So, like, there's the thing. Like, so when we look at the periodic table of elements, like, there's 118 elements out there. The only difference between any one kind of element and any other kind of element is the number of protons that it has. So, oxygen is just what we call an atom that has 8 protons. That's it. If it has 8 protons, it's oxygen. It's going to behave like oxygen. So, that has to come from somewhere. It can break down depending on the number of neutrons it has. It can be unstable and break down faster. So yeah, it's not eternal. It definitely cycles. So there are things called biogeochemical cycles where, like, different elements, different chemicals cycle through our planet over and over. Like you said, we breathe it in, it gets used in something else. We breathe it out, it gets used in something else, blah, blah, blah. It's still there, but, like, it's not eternal by any means. It's going to last a long time, but it's not eternal.
So do you think
it's not eternal? It goes over and over and over and over, and it doesn't wear out, and it's not used up. And if it is used up, then there's going to have to be some place on the planet that's producing more oxygen, but there isn't. So
when you say eternal, that means to me that it has no beginning and no end. It just is always.
No.
We know that's
No.
So what do you mean by eternal?
I mean that it goes on and on and on. I can say that.
Wait, hold on. How is that different than what he? How is that different? How's that? I gotta clean this up. How is that different than what Forrest said? If you just said goes on and on and on, we're assuming that those ons keep going on forever, and there wasn't like a beginning to the ons. They're just eternal, right?
No, I didn't say there doesn't have a beginning. It's here.
How? Okay, how are you defining eternal so that we don't talk past each other?
That it doesn't wear out. That it isn't used up, that it keeps on working over and over and over and over.
Okay, so then here's the question then. Okay. So you understand that oxygen does come from somewhere, right?
No.
Like there wasn't oxygen just in the beginning of the universe.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Cool.
It's not created in the stars.
Yeah,
right.
Stellar nucleosynthesis, my favorite word of all time. If I can have any chance to say the word stellar nucleosynthesis and act smart, I'm gonna do it.
It's a great word.
It's an awesome word.
So yes, oxygen cycles through the biosphere for sure. We breathe it in and we convert it into carbon dioxide, and we breathe it out, and it gets used in plants to be converted back into free floating oxygen. And we can talk about that whole system. It gets used in all sorts of other stuff. It gets bonded with all sorts. It's super electronegative, so it makes all sorts of different minerals and all sorts of cool things. But that doesn't mean that it lasts forever. Just because it cycles like this doesn't mean that it cycles forever. If we weren't here breathing it and using it, it would be fixed in place. And indeed, that's how it was earlier on in Earth's history. Oxygen used to be fixed into carbon dioxide and whatnot. It wasn't until the evolution of photosynthesis that we started getting free oxygen that then became something that was used. So like it is cycling, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of like eternity or God or anything like that.
It's not cycling. When you breathe that oxygen atom out, it's attached to 2 carbon atoms.
Isn't that the word
They're not connected by anything. What?
Isn't that the word you used?
No, it comes. Wait, I didn't understand you.
I was asking, wasn't that the word you used? Cycle? I could be wrong. I just thought that was the word you used.
No, I didn't say cycle. It's not cycling.
Okay.
When you breathe it in, it's free oxygen. When you breathe it out, it's attached to 2 carbon atoms. And then it goes into a plant, and the plant keeps the carbon and exhales the oxygen. It's a free atom.
So just point of interest, just for any, like, it's 2 oxygens attached to 1 carbon, not the other way around. That's not important. I'm not trying to, like, that's the whole argument. Just point of interest. It bothered me. But yeah, no, for sure. It, like, we breathe in oxygen and we make carbon dioxide, and then plants breathe in carbon dioxide and make oxygen. That's what we talk about when we say a cycle. It goes around and around in what we call a biogeochemical cycle. What does that have to do with anything? The fact that it's traded back and forth, that's something that evolved like a little while ago. That's 1.5 million years of history here, or a billion, pardon me, not a million, 1.5 billion years of history here on that. Not that crazy of a thing.
Well, I'm saying that all of matter is like that. It keeps on working over and over. It doesn't decay away. It isn't used up. There's no place producing more matter. And even if, like, science says that it's being produced in the stars, how the heck is it going to get from the stars to the Earth? You got to have
supernovae. So
everything after
the whole thing,
iron, right? Something like that.
Yeah. So like we have a history of that. After the Big Bang, we can go through stellar evolution and talk about the formation of heavier and heavier elements. Stars explode. Some do. They blow up in supernovas, and they create these nebulae that have this, what we have, this planetary nebula, this place that we can form new stars and new planets out of these old star guts that were spread out throughout the cosmos. We have all that. Like,
which
you don't
which
need
we
to,
can
like,
go see. Like, we can. Of course, you tell me you know more about science stuff. Is it not the case that we have evidence for, like, protoplanetary disks now?
Yeah.
So
like, you can't watch the whole process because it takes a long ass time, but, like, seeing it at snapshots here and there, we can totally do that. And so, like, that's the thing, man, is like, we know where these things come from. There's no shuttle bus taking oxygen out of an old star and bringing it to Earth so that we have it, what we need it. And just because atoms tend to, that's the whole point of when you're doing stoichiometry, is you can't make new atoms and break new atoms unless you're doing fission and fusion, whatever. But, like, that's the whole thing, is like you're just rearranging atoms and doing chemistry. None of this is like anything magical. It just says that this is the laws of chemistry.
You don't think that's unreasonable, that something can work over and over and over and over and over again?
Why would that be the case? So why would it be the case, possibly, that oxygen would be used up, so to speak? How would that make any sense?
That's right. That's what I'm saying. It isn't used up. That science says it is. Everything is decaying.
Right, but oxygen, like, all atoms will eventually decay, and we see atoms decaying now. That's the whole point of, like, when we do radiometric dating, that's because atoms decayed into other atoms. They broke down into smaller pieces. So, like, yeah, they can decay.
That's not true. No,
atoms can't break down?
That's not true.
All right,
no.
What isn't true?
Look, can you cut an atom in half? Like,
you can break a piece off of it, yes.
No, you can't. It's a little marble, and it's not made up of anything. It's the thing that makes up everything else. And you can't...
You don't think that atoms have any constituent parts?
Yeah, I was about to ask about
electrons. There's no such thing as little parts of an atom. That's not... The whole electron theory is baloney. And any science...
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
Really quick, I just want to ask. Yeah, no, I wanted to see how far we were going to go.
Oh, man.
Like, here's a question for you. Rutherford's gold foil experiment. How does that make sense if we don't have individual parts of an atom?
I don't know what that experiment is.
It's one of the things that prove that atoms have parts. So here's how this worked. Is this is actually one of the proofs that atoms are mostly empty space, that it's a small nucleus with a cloud of electrons around it and a lot of nothing in the middle. Is Rutherford took a tiny sheet of gold foil, like about 1 or 2 atoms thick, like unbelievably thin, and he shot alpha particles at it. Alpha particles are the nuclei of helium atoms, 2 protons and 2 neutrons. You'll just think of them as very small atoms. It doesn't really matter. He shot these little particles at it and found that the vast majority of them went straight through. So you have this solid sheet of gold, and most of the particles being fired at it go straight through it and don't hit anything along the way. How would that make sense if atoms are solid objects?
You can move your hand through the air too. You just right through.
Yeah, but the air is different atoms with space in between them. It's not a solid object.
It has space in between them, right? That's why you can move your hand through it. That's why an airplane can fly through the air, because it moves and it has space in between it. But a solid object like the atom itself, you can't move it apart. You can't cut it in half. It's made.
Right. So how did these particles go through the gold foil if the gold foil is a solid object that can't be parsed in half?
Oh, maybe he's lying. Maybe it didn't. Is he English? The problem with science is that you guys.
So the vast, all of the rest of chemistry hinges on that.
What the fuck kind of response was? Is he English? What? Help me. What the fuck was that?
You don't trust the British.
My dad's English. I take offense to this.
Because the English are dumbasses, and they write up all this crap about science. And you dumbass Americans, you believe it.
Okay, so
are you not?
Do you hear yourself right now? You're generalizing all God. English people as if they have like some vendetta. What? I can't even take you seriously.
What is that?
I'm gonna try to do what the whole, at least to get to the end of this and ignore the really dumb fucking thing you just said.
Yeah, that was wild.
We're gonna try to ignore that. You presumably you want a cause, right? That's like the whole like shebang is there's a cause and then blah blah blah. Am I right or am I wrong? Because you're saying something causes that. At least with the call screen.
Causes what?
Or
that's what you said in the call screen.
Yeah, the call screen says
matter in space is eternal. Something caused that.
You also said the Earth is eternal, which just denies protoplanetary disks, which is really insane. And but presumably that was from English people, so we can just throw that one away. I wonder how Katie feels right now. Katie's probably like, "What the fuck?
Yeah,
what did I do? What did I do to you?" Richard's like, "What did I do to you?" But Chuck, is that where you're going or no? Because one, your whole argument falls apart because there is immense amounts of inductive evidence for protoplanetary disk, which is, the Earth, prior to the Earth. So I'm curious, is it supposed to lead back to God for you? Is that the whole point? Because this is really easily debunked in 2 seconds if it is.
Well, the universe is made up of all these little teeny weeny things, and there's nothing there holding them together. There's no such thing as gravity. And there's no such thing as time.
There's no such thing as gravity.
So you think God sustains all these things into existence? Is that your claim?
Yeah, exactly. Something's got to keep.
Yep. So I have great. So let's compare views. Yeah, let's compare views. You have an extremely complicated view, which is that God is not only sustaining all things in existence, he's like probably concurring with things to make sure that they go the way that they're supposed to go. And you have this agent with intelligence and intentional states like beliefs and desires, like he desires them to stay the way they are. And I have a view. It's called existential inertia. There's a lot of literature and philosophy about it. It's just the idea that things have the persistence on existing unless something forces them out or something causes them to not exist. Now, I have a much simpler thesis that actually follows empirical work without adding this thing that desires to have things all sustained in the universe. So from a theoretical perspective, like my view is way simpler and it explains all the data. It's just the property of that all things have. They go on existing unless they decay or they go out of existence. And you have this thing that has to sustain these things in existence. I have no need for that. You have an extremely complicated view with more entities and kinds of entities, like a divine realm and all this stuff. I don't need all that. I explain all the data. So I win. And also, what caused that thing? Nothing caused that thing. You want to know? It exists of metaphysical necessity, the same way your God has no cause. So I win again. So this is like really easy and dumb, right?
It doesn't mean you win. You don't win by being stupid.
Oh, I totally won.
Chuck, you have to understand, you just called in to tell us that gravity doesn't exist, that atoms are solid objects, which has been debunked since the 1800s, that electrons don't exist, that the Earth is eternal, that all English people lie about science, and then you're going to follow that up by saying you're not right just because you're saying stupid shit.
It's because my dad's British, so he's not going to listen to me.
Either literally everything that we know about all of science is wrong, or you are. Literally, the technology that you are using to call us right now is reliant on atomic theory, is reliant on electron theory, is reliant on electrodynamics, and like all these things you say can't be real. So like, what's more likely? Is literally every single scientist in the whole damn world incorrect about the fundamentals of reality, or do you think maybe you made a mistake?
You're right. They're all wrong. Really, a lot of people call.
And there it is. You're right. They're all wrong. Chuck, I think we're done. Man, it's gotten real boring real fast. Feel free to call back anytime you want to talk about reality. We'll have a great time. I'll draw out how you calculate like Hubble's law, and we'll see where that fucking leads.
Yeah, with probably the most arrogant caller I've had on the show.
It's wild, dude. We've got let's see here really quick, because we're way past the time even you and I privately said we wanted to stop at. We've got Emery King sent $5. Forrest, you're better than Bill Nye. That's very kind of you. When I worked at CSSC, he came for a talk and was super rude and sexist to all the employees. Don't meet your heroes. That is not the first time I've heard that, and that's really unfortunate.
I've never heard any of that, so that's
it's I don't know, man. I'm never gonna say anything negative about him unless I met him in person, but like I've heard some things. Aaron Shepley sent $3.99 all the way from Canada. Emoji, a thumbs up sign, hand gesture with the words top. Cool. Logan Locke sent $10 and a smiley face. Blind Limey sent $5 and said, today's callers have made me feel like my mind is falling apart like a slice of wet cake.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
And with that,
getting the words out because of it.
It is wild. Just as a reminder, we've got the 24/7 AXP TV live stream going on. You can watch that here on the channel. We answered last week's question at the beginning of the show. This next week's question again is, who do you think is the worst person to run into in heaven? Put your answer in the comments, and we'll answer that. We'll pick up the top three answers and put them on the thing. Holy crap, Jmike, what a show! We've been going for a long time, and we've covered a lot of things. And I wish we had time for more, but we just super don't.
By the way, my answer
you want to throw out?
Yeah, my answer has changed since the third person that answered the question of last week mentioned 2 Kings 23:24. Don't be bald, right? If I lose my hair and I go to heaven and Elijah's there, that's probably the person I don't want to meet. Or at least if Elijah's there, if I'm there and those kids are there, calling me Baldy, what a horrible thing. I must send bears.
There aren't any bears in heaven.
Yeah, I must send bears after them. That's the horrible. But yeah,
it's tough, man. And do you have anything else you want to throw out before we wrap up? Anything you want people to know about? Things people can go see or find or whatever like that?
No, just tune in to all the shows that the ACA houses, nonprofits, and you all know them: Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted, nonprofits, and Atheist Experience, and just support and watch the 24-hour live thing if you want to watch more.
If you want to watch more things, absolutely. There's always more things to watch. Yeah. With that, thank you all so much for hanging out so long. I know this is a super long show. I had a tremendous amount of fun, so thanks for tuning in. Have an awesome rest of your day and never stop learning. Bye-bye.
Start opening your eyes. Start questioning the bullshit everyone around you buys. You think it's any of your business what goes on between my thighs. I wonder when we'll be rid of your life.
It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality Live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.